Good evening, one and all. It's the drinker here, and we're starting happy hour number 39. And I am joined tonight by the long man himself, MauLer, where we're going to talk about the world's end, the final epic conclusion to the Cornetto Trilogy.
Yes,
Thanks for joining me for this one, man. This one's been a long time coming.
absolutely. It's really been a fun ride, these three movies. And with everything everyone knows about what we thought of the first two, I'm sure they're going to be very interested to know what we think of this one now.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, because we did them a little bit out of order, didn't we? We did Hot Fuzz first and then went back to Shaun of the Dead.
I can explain that. Hot Fuzz is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, and that's what started this whole idea of like, okay, well, let's do all of them. Let's do the Cornetto trilogy because, from a writing point of view, like all three of them are excellent movies. I think, should I say, World's End is probably the least popular of the three.
Yeah.
And I sort of get why. Like, it doesn't have the really tightly written, brilliantly constructed plot of Hot Fuzz, and it doesn't have the sort of accessible humor of Shaun of the Dead, and it doesn't have the same freshness to it. It's a little bit more somber in a lot of ways. It's a more reflective kind of movie. I was going to call it a more sober kind of movie, but that's clearly the wrong description. But yeah, I think that they went more for character on this one than any of the other movies for me. And I think that's an interesting choice. But I think it reflected kind of where the actors and the writers were at in their lives as they did it.
Yeah, I think so. I've got my own reasons for why I pick the other two as stronger than this one. But I mean, I just don't know how controversial this is. I love this film quite a bit. I think it's fantastic. Though there are flaws and things that frustrate me, but so much to talk about in terms of what it manages to pull off as well. And then a couple of theories on why it is that it ended up where it is. Whenever you bring it up, people have to tell you it's the worst of the three. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and you're like, okay.
I did see a few people in chat saying like it's my favorite of the three. I really love it. So.
Interesting thing about that, I think it also manages to appeal to people very hardcore, like a certain set of people, and specifically with Gary King, I think, his story. Because Wolf, by the way, I watched the three of them with him, like, I think 2 years ago or something, and he obviously loves all three of them, but World's End he was the most impressed with. He thought it was fantastic and that it was easily his favorite, which is interesting, right? Because it's oftentimes shat on.
I think so, and it really seems like one of those films that I think the older you get, the more you appreciate it. It's interesting that Wolf liked it so much because I figured a lot of the references and a lot of the humor was so British. He would kind of struggle with it, but yeah, I guess it hit, it struck a chord anyway with just the sort of characterization and the writing of it.
Yeah, I honestly think most of it's to do with Gary King's struggle. I think he's possibly the most detailed character in the entire trilogy. There's so much going on.
Yeah. I love the way, you gradually learn more about him and you gradually learn the real depths that he's sunk to over the course of the film. And I think in a lot of ways, probably everybody knows a Gary King in some ways, like a guy who kind of peaked early and he was a total legend in high school, just like, the kind of guy who was always the life and soul of the party, but then kind of never went on to do anything with his life. And, ended up becoming kind of a waster. And like, there's a real tragedy to Gary, how he's so enamored with the past and he's so in love with like the life that he used to have. There's a speech that he gives right at the end, which, I won't go into too much right now, but when he talks about, how he was so filled with optimism and hope for the future on that night out that they had back in the day. And it just never panned out. And I think probably a lot of people can relate to that. When you're a teenager in high school, you're looking forward to the rest of your life and you're like, oh man, it's just going to be like one big party. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, for most people, it really doesn't work out like that.
Certainly not how you see it. Because there's lots of regrets across all of the characters in different ways. And that's part of what the climax is about, is that, like, well, at least I see it that way. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that yet. We'll wait until get a little further on.
I guess we can just jump into the intro, which which kind of gives you the whole plot of the movie, like right there, because it's again, it takes foreshadowing to the next level. I know, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are quite big on that sort of thing, but this one basically tells you what's going to be happening in this film, and everything that they do in this movie mirrors the night out that they have back in 1991, I think it is. So Gary and the rest of his mates are like their last day of high school. As you always do on your last day, you go out on a fucking bender and they try to do the Golden Mile, which is like 12 pubs, 12 pints. And, they don't quite make it. But you get all the things that they do in this, like the various fights that they have in different pubs, the bit where they all get paranoid because in the old days, they smoke weed in like a shed somewhere and they get all paranoid and leave one of their guys behind. And then they finish up on a hilltop, like overlooking the town that they grew up in, just as the sun's rising. And it's, you then flash to Gary, who's in like an AA meeting, and he's like, "Yep, that was the best day of my life, and I was thinking it was never going to get better than this, and it never did." Straight away you get that tragic kind of character who's just, he's fallen on hard times, I guess.
It's entirely subversive. We're watching this really awesome description of a really fun night. We have no idea where they're taking us exactly. And then it just suddenly cuts to this harsh reality that he's having to deal with alcohol addiction and his whole life's fallen apart. It's just like, damn. Yeah. Okay. And of course, you'll have brought with you your love and appreciation for the prior two movies. So of course, we're looking to be invested in whoever the two main characters are going to be. And you're just like, oh God, what a starting point. Like, because obviously Hot Fuzz, he's at the peak of his game. This is a respectable, honorable person who's going to be looking out for this town. Meanwhile, this guy just like, geez, I hope he's going to be okay, sort of thing. But as the film goes on, you start to learn that he's playing probably the worst of the three people, like morally, that he's played.
Gary's an absolute tit. Like, in the early stages of the movie, like you gradually learn how he's just a selfish asshole, and he's completely used his friends. Like even things like his car that he bought from one of his mates, and he left it registered in that guy's name. So like whenever he got done by the police, the points would go on his mate's license.
Oh, dude,
just like an absolute shithead.
I feel like we do this with all of these movies, but just appreciating the dialogue all the time. There's so many good lines when they're like, why'd you give him your name? Why'd you give him Pete's name? And then he's like, well, I'm not going to give him mine. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when he says like the car's registered in your name, and it's like, why do you think you got all those points on your license? He doesn't see a problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, and that character's a bit of a pushover. Like it's not surprising that he probably just left it and hoped for the best, sort of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Because he does do that at the beginning as well. He gives us a very quick description of all of the characters, and we get like basic traits that pan out in the movie. Then.
Yeah. So Andy is like the solid best friend. Like out of all of them, he's the guy that he's closest to, and he's just one of them dudes that always comes through for you no matter what. And he gradually proves himself to be that same guy in this movie. And you find out, because obviously, that they've all grown estranged from each other, but Andy's the one who's most antagonistic towards Gary. And it's not until later in the movie that you really find out why. And again, just Gary being an absolute shithead towards him. You can understand why he's so pissed off with him. The weird thing is like they've all got royal titles as well, or royal names. Like it's like Gary King, Andy Knightley, Steve Prince, Oman Chamberlain. Like they're all kind of they're like royal names or like chess pieces or whatever. It's an interesting choice for them.
Yeah. Obviously the one that a lot of people are going to want to point out is the bar, the King's Head, is Simon Pegg. The image, yeah. Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, and so I guess the gist, just for anyone who hasn't seen it somehow, is that these five guys went out on a big bender on their last night of high school. They tried to do the Golden Mile, where you go to 12 different pubs and you have a pint in each one. They didn't quite make it to the end, but they finished up on a hilltop, or at least the last survivors did. And then you flash forward to the present day. So it's now 20 odd years later. They're all grown up. They're like middle-aged men now. And Gary decides that he wants to have another crack at it. He wants to have a reunion. And he basically just bluffs his way into getting everyone on board, doesn't he? Like he finds each guy and just pretends that everyone else has like agreed to do it in order to guilt them into it.
Yeah, because like we obviously find out that he does two things to convince Andy, which he needed to do because, as we find out, Andy should have nothing to do with him after what they went through, which he's essentially either choosing to forget or choosing to ignore the event, like the car crash and stuff. And of course, he says he pays him back, and he tells him that his mum's died, and that's why he's doing this, which convinces Andy quite quickly. Because this is the other thing that's probably worth mentioning is I know that one of the complaints people have is that Nick Frost isn't that convincing to them as this character. He's totally different from the other two, but I quite love him in this film. I think he's fantastic at representing what is essentially like the straight man from a person who knew his life was going nowhere if he didn't start becoming responsible. And so he, a lot of his body language, a lot of the way he speaks to everybody is very mature, and he's like trying to make sure that this whole crazy thing they're doing is done correctly and in respect to those who've passed, sort of thing.
Yeah. There's a good speech that he gives because there comes a point later in the movie where they've essentially had enough. It's before they realize that the alien invasion is happening, and they've been to like 3 or 4 pubs already, and you know, Andy basically says like, you know, we've this has gone on long enough. You know, you're just using us as an excuse to go out and get fucked up. Yeah, we're just your enablers, and you know. Gary tries to hit him with the whole, oh, but my mom died. And he just says to him, like, well, and we're very sorry about that, but it's time for us to go home. Yeah. And I think Nick Frost does a good performance of that. Just keeping it very clinical. And, you know, it's almost like a manager talking to you when he's firing you. You know, I'm sorry that this has happened, but this is what has to go down.
Yeah. And he does that throughout the film. Like when he's like, obviously the great joke of him saying, a man of your prowess drinking fucking rain.
Yeah.
And like he tries to explain to him the event and then the results of that, and how even though he's making fun of him for drinking water in a bar as if that's some kind of like lame, you know, just something that a weak person might do, he then says like drinking water in front of a bunch of guys like sport fans wearing war paint takes a lot of balls.
Yeah, in front of rugby players, like that is a ballsy move because those guys love their beer. Like,
yeah,
and yeah, like I think it implies that he is a rugby player, like or something like that, because you kind of see him doing that back in high school. As much as he's like a big fat lad, like he's strong as fuck, and I think you see him do various things, like he throws robots over his head, and like you know he can like. He grabs the chairs and he's just like got them on in either hand. He uses them as boxing gloves. Like he's a big dude, and I think
he's the best fighter of the lot. And they do foreshadow that a little bit with the description of the friends and their initial mile. I think they had a fight in the same bar, right?
Yeah, because you see him again stripping his shirt off, like he just rips it off because he's enraged and
I fucking hate this town.
I fucking hate this town. I think the bit where it's game on for Andy is where he just necks 5 shots, like one after the other.
We actually would want to talk about that bit, but maybe once we get there. The one thing I was going to say is, in terms of him trying to be mature and stuff, is that so many good back and forths in this. So we're going to do our best to not just simply read the scripts to the people in chat, but like, when he's telling him about how he's chosen to drink responsibly or whatever, he's like I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're not teenagers anymore. And then he says, and God forbid, if you ever have any children. And he goes, I might have kids. And he goes, yeah, okay. So if you have any children, he goes, no, I might have kids. And he explains what he means by that as a joke. And then he takes his glasses off, like, for fuck's sake. Like, I can't even talk to him because he's just going to rattle off on some bullshit.
Well, I think the recurring thing with them is that it's always like, oh, Gary will just never admit that he's wrong. Like, he's always got some way of like dodging the question or turning it to his advantage. And like everyone just eventually gives up with him. It's like, oh, fuck it. We'll just go along with what you're saying because you'll never give an inch.
And some of them are excellent. The way that they get him to sneak around a conversation. Like when he puts, I forget her name, actress girl that's in loads of things. Why am I forgetting her name in the film and in real life? the sister.
Sam. Yeah, Sam. Rosamund Pike.
Yeah, that's it. He puts her in the car and has her run away, and then he's like, I do something right for once, and you guys are still shitting all over me. Then he goes, oh, so you finally admit you're wrong. But he was like, well, no, I didn't want to do that. It's like, you said you finally done something right, which means every time other was wrong. And he goes, not necessarily.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
He has loads of those throughout the movie where he relies on the interpretation of words to sneak around having said anything that he regrets.
Yeah.
One of I think my favorite one is when they find out the mum is actually alive, and he chews him out for it, and then he just goes, oh, it's a white lie. He's like, how is that a white lie? He's like, well, she's alive.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He doesn't see a problem with any of it for him. It's totally worthwhile.
He's pretty much convinced that he's getting them to have their best nights too. So as long as he can manipulate them into it, it's all for the better. But it's really about himself, of course.
Yeah. And Andy is 100% right when he's like, you're just using all of this as an excuse to keep drinking and fuck yourself up, and we're just here to give you an excuse for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's totally spot on with that. And yeah, like even he pays Andy back 600 quid that I guess he owed him for like trashing his car or something like that back in the day. Yeah. And you find out that he borrowed it off the other guys to pay him.
Yeah, and he has it's like a Bible reference, right? Paying Robert Peter to pay Paul.
And he's like, no, I'm borrowing it from you to pay him. You kind of feel like he was just called Peter just so that they could
do that joke, yeah,
that
gag. Yeah, and so much miscommunication like all over the film, and they rely on that to make. Well, Edgar relies on that to make a lot of great interactions. So I was going to say when they're picking up the friends when he's first convincing them all, when he talks to Martin Freeman, who I really do like in this film. Then again, I really do like everybody in this film. I think they all do really good. He's like a nerd, or like he's nerdy as hell in terms of he's up at the top and he doesn't really understand slang at all, but he tries to. And so when he describes himself as "I'm back on the horse," or "I'm off the horse," or something like that, he's like, "Oh, you're back on the like oh you're doing drugs, you're doing what was that?" He goes, "No, I'm back on the bike." And he goes, "What's bike slang for?" He goes, "Bicycle." He goes, "I'm not." He says, "Don't be lost." He goes, "Oh, okay." And then that reflects later on, if you remember, when he says, I've got the Sisters of Mercy's tattoo. And then he says something like, oh, well, you won't need to go swimming then, or something like that. And he goes, "I'm lost." And he goes, "Don't be." Like, they did it to each other.
Yeah, that reflects again later on, that whole, because it gets reversed then, that whole "I'm lost, don't be." Yeah. That's the
kind of stuff.
Yeah, Edgar Wright does that really well, just reflecting back the same dialogue later, but in a different context. Like they did it in Shaun of the Dead really well with like, "Oh, I'll stop doing them when you stop laughing." Mm-hmm. Starts out as a joke, turns out to be a really poignant final line from a guy who's about to die. It's
one of the things. If anybody wants to say this movie sucks and everything, it's like fair enough, but it's absolutely a Cornetto movie. Like it fits in with the other two really well. It has all the same hallmarks.
Yeah. I think the difference that they went for here is that, again, it's a little bit more poignant than the other movies, and it's a more reflective kind of film from a bunch of actors and filmmakers who are a bit older now, and they want to look back on things a little bit. Like I guess that's what happens when you get to a certain point in your life, and it's something that's kind of relatable. All throughout the film, there's these ideas that like you go back to your hometown and it's going to look similar, but like there's always that feeling that it's a bit different. And then you realize eventually it's not really the town that's changed; it's kind of you. You're older now, and you're a different person, and you can't just go back to the same place and be the same person you were 20 years ago. It doesn't work like that, and that's what Gary's a reflection of. He's living in the past. He wants to act like he's still 18.
Yeah.
And he's just in high school, and he can just party all night and do whatever the fuck he wants. And it's like, you can't anymore. Not when you're 40 years old.
And upon exiting, he's just listening to him trying to sell a house. He's like, "What's it on for?" They go, 1.2 million. He goes, "Fuck off."
Yeah. Yeah. It's that guy that was going to buy the house was one of the Andes.
Yeah, we got
from
both
Hot
the Andys
Fuzz.
in this.
Yeah. It's great to see the same guys just crop up, but in totally different roles. You know,
I love as well, not just the dialogue, but a lot of the time with the delivery. And I do wonder if it's Edgar Wright making sure they deliver it as he intended, like written and stuff. But he's talking to Martin Freeman. He's like, so he's asking a bunch of questions. He's getting like yes, no's, yes, and then he goes, "Does your sister still talk about me?" And he just goes, "No." Like, why would you even think that? It's like,
yeah.
oh, great.
I just love when he first meets her, and the first thing he does is like follow her into the ladies' toilets.
Oh, dude, that back and forth, fantastic as well.
Rosamund Pike was excellent in this. You know,
Yeah, she was.
Because quite often they have the actress, the female character, really playing the straight man, and like they don't get to do anything fun or anything, but she really gets involved in the fighting and stuff, and she gets some great lines as well. It's just, yeah, she plays it brilliantly.
I think the back and forth of that again, because we're just talking about how Gary, he only hears what he wants to hear, and he often just slithers around the conversation. But she's like, "I haven't seen you in 20 years. Are you really gonna like we're gonna have sex in the toilets?" And he just goes, "Well, the disableds are out of order."
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not. You're like, "Are you fucking around? Are you listening to me or not?"
Well, what's great as well is when she gives him the out of order sign, and he wears it around his neck. But then later on, when they have the fight with the robots, and they need to like cover the fact that the bathroom's like a war zone, he just puts that on the door.
Yeah,
it's like, God, it's so. They really thought this through, you know.
There's loads of interactions like that. It's just really satisfying to see.
Yeah, and I love when he comes and picks them up in the Beast, which is this like shitty old like Ford Granada or something from like it's the same car he's had all this time, and you know he's describing it to them, and he's like, yeah, you know, it's the same car. It's like I've had to change out like the tires, the exhaust, the gearbox, like the entire engine block, like most of the chassis and the underside. It's like, but it's the same car.
Again, I can't help but do this with movies like this. But I'm like, is that supposed to be representative a bit of like, it's what we're like as people? The more we grow up, we lose different parts, replace with different parts, and we're just sort of like, we're moving on. But he's desperate to be like, I've not changed at all. I'm exactly the same as I was then, and so are all of you.
I genuinely think it's just him completely. Like, he wants his life to just be on pause. And never get older, never buy different clothes, never like drive a different car, because even when they're driving along and he's got a mixtape that Steve gave to him like back in high school, and Steve's like, "Oh, where'd you find that?" And like thinking it was probably in some box in his attic somewhere, and he's like, "No, it was in the cassette player." You know, he's just had it in the car the whole time.
They'll just give it awkward looks because they're like, "Oh man, he hasn't listened to anything else in 20 years."
Yeah, I think that was the kind of look of like, oh, we might be in trouble here. Yeah. Like, this guy isn't normal.
he needs to pee or whatever. They cross over to a place, and you get a little bit of interaction between these lot without him. And you've got Marty Freeman's like, oh, you know, you might be having a piss, but you might actually be. And then he does a symbol for cocaine or whatever. And Peter's like, a poo. There's like, what?
I love how Martin Freeman's like, his thing is always like WTF.
Yeah, which they pay off great.
Yeah, what the fuck does WTF mean? And it's like Peter just comes out of a bathroom and just goes, "What the fuck?" Oh, okay.
All right, yeah, I get it.
No, but it's you know, they take the Beast into whatever the town's called. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but it's like a stereotypical, like, you know, rural English town name.
Oh, Newton Haven.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, the town.
Is that not from Hot Fuzz?
No, Newton Haven. The town in Hot Fuzz is what is it? Someone in chat will get it before my memory will catch up. I'm thinking of Butterman telling him it. What is it? Come on, brain.
Come on.
I know it's Newton Haven in this film.
Okay.
Sanford.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Sanford.
Sanford. Fuck yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Newton Haven. It's interesting as well. Like all these three movies are set in like very different locations. Like Shaun of the Dead's in London, like big city. You know, Hot Fuzz is set in Sanford. It's just like this little picturesque village. And then you've got, you know, this, which is Newton Haven, and it's like the sort of generic small town Britain.
Yeah.
You know, so they've all got that different feel to them.
There's another thing all three of them do is, of course, British culture is just it's throughout these movies, and it's so wonderful to watch as someone who's just so integrated into British culture. But also, so the pub stuff. All of them have pub stuff. Always drinking, always, and the angle of just being with friends and having a good time is throughout them all as well. They're very feel good movies, despite the fact that we've got a zombie movie, like zombie action, I guess, or horror. And then the action thriller of like people are getting killed and you have to kill them back in half. And then this one being like an alien mystery with loads of like everyone gets turned into mulch. Like these are things that are pretty like oof.
But there's something just fundamentally like comforting and cozy about like an old fashioned British pub.
Yeah.
You know, where you go in, you've got the open fire and stuff, and like the guys who've been drinking there for 30 years, and like the old like fucking red carpets and stuff, like all that stuff that just takes you back, and you just feel like immediately I'm at home here. I'm just gonna have a nice pint, and like everything's gonna be a bit better after that.
Yeah, and I think that they all feel like get through the night, and this will be good for everybody probably. Even though even on the first couple of pubs, you can tell they're all just kind of there. They're like, let's just do it and get it out of the way.
Well, it's great as well because it's, you know, Edgar Wright mentioned this in interviews, and he's like, a lot of this movie is like a commentary on how like so many of these old, really good character pubs that have been there for like 200 years, they've been taken over by chains, and so everything becomes homogenized. And you know, they play on that. The first 2 or 3 pubs that they go into, they're just identical on the inside. They've all got that fake like blackboard with the chalk writing on it of the menu. They've all got the exact same things on tap and to eat and stuff. Like it's just like every place they go is just a Weatherspoons basically.
Yeah, they call it Starbucking, don't they?
Yeah, totally. And that's what happens, you know. Like there's so many pubs that I used to know that were just independently owned, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and now they're bought over by a chain, and they're all just identical. You know, it takes all the soul out of them.
Yeah, and that plays in as well to the pub names. We'll try and hit them as we go, but like obviously the first post is where they get first blood drawn. That's the first drinks. Like it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
The Old Familiar being the one where they're like, wait a minute, this is literally exactly the fucking same.
Yeah,
the same bar.
I'm going to have to follow your lead on the pub names because I have forgotten all of them.
I'll take care of it. No worry.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist writing down that stuff because I found that so cool on my first watch through of this. I was like, oh, neat. The pub names are describing the plot.
Yeah.
Almost.
Same exact thing as Shaun of the Dead, which was just, it was such a neat touch back in the day. And yeah, like I think they even talk about how they they want to eat some food at the next one, and Nick Frost is all about how his wife keeps wanting him to go vegan, and he's like, I quite like eating shit, and Gary's like, yeah, the shit at the next place, and it's just them eating generic chips, you know, at like a fucking chain pub.
That's one of the first signs of desperation too. He's barred, and he chooses to drink like 2 leftover halves.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, he's really gonna get those pints in somehow, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's so dedicated to the Golden Mile. He's determined to get this no matter what. And it's obviously in the first one as well, you find out that Andy is a teetotaler now, and everyone else orders a pint. He orders like a pint of water.
Yeah. And we got the barring. The bar was called the Famous Cock. So obviously, he's a famous cock. Like,
yeah.
And he's gotten booted from it, which just lines up perfectly as well. And if you remember on I think it's the place that they're going to try and sleep in after all of this. He rings the bell, and it like fades into the soundtrack as he explains his entire plan for the night, and he explains it really flowery and all in one take. It's really good.
Yeah,
and all of that gets said back to him at like the 8th bar or something by the
yeah.
And they're all just like, "What the fuck's going on?"
Because it's like he talks about the taste of the beer that he's wanting to buy, so you know the first landlord is just like, it's just lager. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You've got one choice, and that's it. And Gary launches into this big description of like how it's going to have a fresh, crispy taste that's going to linger on the mouth and stuff. And that's exactly what the guy repeats back to him when they go to like the next pub, because it's like the aliens have learned from what he needs to hear, and they just repeat it back to him.
Yeah, because part of the goal for them is to integrate, and so it looks as if they're like, we're on board with people, but then they reveal it's like, so how successful are you? It's like, well, we've still got 2 people.
Yeah, we had to mulch everybody else in the town.
Which again, hilarious, but also indicative of the point the film's making, which we'll wait until we get to that finale, probably. At least I think the point is. But yeah, it's already at this point, because this is the thing. I've always wanted to see the Cornetto movies without having seen the trailers, because I know what the twist, quote unquote, is going to be. Like, I remember seeing the trailer for Hot Fuzz and being like, whoa, this film's going to turn into an action-packed, like, blood-just-drenched, crazy thing. And so when you watch it, you're waiting for that sort of to kick off. Same with Shaun of the Dead. I remember seeing all the zombie stuff, and I was like, it's going to be great. Same for this movie. I knew from the trailer, there's, like, they fight people, and there's like, ink and stuff, like, something's going on. But, like, you can watch all 3 of these movies, and that's not obvious when you're watching them. This movie you might think is going to be like a bit of a character study with a bunch of friends going on a pub crawl. It's like, okay.
It kind of builds up gradually. Like, you get people in the street that they're passing, just kind of look at them a bit shifty.
Yeah.
You know, and you get that sort of growing sense that something's not quite right about this town, but we're not quite sure what it is.
I think you have some ability to write it off as that they may or may not recognize Gary, or that they may or may not think that these guys, like, what are they doing here? Who are they? Or something. Your brain might try and explain it away if you have no context. Yeah. But yeah, it all comes together. And I think to a degree that's kind of similar with Shaun of the Dead, right? We're dealing with this guy who's trying to fix up his life, and in the background you're seeing like reports of, infection or whatever, and people are getting hurt and stuff, and then you see the shadow of someone hitting the wall in the window, and you're like, oh shit, are we doing a zombie movie? Like, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
But again, Shaun of the Dead, you're probably gonna have some indication.
Yeah. But I enjoyed that like sense of growing doom that you got in Shaun of the Dead, where you can see this outbreak happen. The characters were oblivious, but you kind of knew what was coming. But with this one, it's not until they get to like the 4th pub, I think it is. Gary's had a run-in with Sam, and she's basically told him to fuck off, and the rest of the gang, especially Andy, are just wanting to quit. Like, they're not interested in this anymore. So Gary goes off to the gents to have a piss. And that's when one of the teenagers that they've met earlier comes and follows him in. And Gary's, it's interesting because he slips on some piss on the floor, and he loses his temper because he's already mad about what's happened. And he goes to punch the wall, and he just sees like a tile that's all cracked, where he punched it 20 years earlier. And it just, again, it's a little echo of the person that he was. Like, he's just repeating the same mistakes that like younger Gary made. He's not like grown or matured in any way. And then the young guy comes in, and Gary tries to strike up a conversation with him, and he's doing the whole like, I'm the older.
I'm hip too.
Yeah, he's like, I blazed the trail for you. Like, I'm cool as fuck. I've got the experience that you don't have, and all that stuff. The guy's just not listening to him, and just Gary gets more and more pissed off with him. He tries to grab him, and then the guy just hits the hand dryer. And I didn't get this the first time I saw it at the cinema. Like, why is he doing that? It was to mask the noise of the fight.
Yeah,
while he's killing him.
They also they blend it into the soundtrack. I think they raise the pitch of it as the fight happens, and they sort of mess with it. Which again, Edgar is obsessed with matching in-universe music with his soundtrack, and it's always wonderful. If you listen out for it, you can really tell with a lot of different things. Of course, when they're pouring the beers and the water, he stresses that, or with audio, not just visuals.
Yeah, I just love that quick shot of 4 pints getting pulled, and then the water, and then you see
very calm.
Yeah, and then you see you see it from Andy's point of view as he's drinking from the glass, and you just see you see Gary just staring at him with absolute contempt, through the glass. He gets into this fight with the fucking robot and ends up slamming it right through a sink and breaks its head apart, and it's just filled with blue.
It is, like I said, if you didn't have the context, you are just like Gary. You're like, what in the fuck just happened? And it's really cool because he's obviously like trying to appeal to the guy, like, I want to hang out with you. This guy's like an alien thing. It doesn't want anything to do with him. And so he thinks, no, it's because you hate me, don't you? You hate me because I'm not cool anymore, because I don't match. And so like this paranoia takes over. He just wants to fight the guy as a result.
Yeah.
And gets involved with something a little bit different. And
but it's a thing that I think people can identify with. Again, you know, when you're his age, like I think he's like 40 or something like that, around about that age.
Yeah.
And you see teenagers that remind you of what you were back in the day, but you're not that anymore. And there's that inherent kind of resentment and insecurity that comes with it. Like, oh shit, I'm getting older, and I'm not cool and young like these guys are. And that insecurity just immediately plays on Gary.
Yeah, and I think he says like, "Don't touch me," and then he knocks his hat off, and he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And that's enough.
Yeah,
he calls in trouble. And yeah, of course, to sort of set up the next payoff, because I think it's fucking great. He's been talking about his mum, and I think Andy was like, you know, oh yeah, or Pete was like, "How was the funeral?" And he blanks. He's like, "Funeral," and then Andy's like, "Your mum's funeral?" And then he's like, "Oh, it was really very sad. Yes,
yeah,
very very sad." And he was like, "Right." So obviously that's still suspicious. And then when he left his phone, which, by the way, he pulled the phone out to signify that the time's gone, so the buses have stopped, and so they can't leave. Again, it's not arbitrary why he pulled out the phone, which I appreciate. So he left it on the table, and you could still say, though, it was convenient for it to ring at that moment, like that his mum wanted to talk to him. But it creates the scenario where they're aware that his mum's not dead, of course.
Yeah, I just love as well how his phone is like from the late 90s, probably just an absolute brick, and it's just perfectly encapsulates Gary as a character. Like everything has to be like old-fashioned stuff.
You knew that they did that on purpose. Like this is what I mean, man. Like films that I end up adoring, I end up like looking really deep, and then I can't assume that that's stuff like that's an accident. It's like, no, they probably thought of this character from the ground up. They probably designed everything around what they knew about his values and what he thinks about everything. Even I saw this recently with I knew this from World Tour. No, Grand Tour I was about to say, but it could be something else. It's some car show. I'll remember it in a minute. But you know Breaking Bad? He has the car he drives in that. Yeah, it was Grand Tour. They're racing really shitty, I think, European and American cars, and the idea is to race them around the track until they all break. And the last person to break is the loser. First person to break is the winner.
Was that Lockdown, the most recent one?
It could. I don't think it was because I watched that recently. I fucking love that show, by the way. I fully recommend everybody see Grand Tour.
Grand Tour's great. Clarkson's Farm even was quite good.
Yes,
I was really surprised by it.
I'm looking forward to season 2. So yeah, oh, there you go. Pontiac Aztec. And so Richard Hammond's driving it, and he says, so this car is ugly as sin, and everyone hates it. And there is a reason why they gave this car to Walter White. It's like it's because obviously when you know who Walter White is in season 1, like the first episode, they gave him that car deliberately, and I was just like, huh. It's like that kind of thought about characters is always really impressive to me. I really like it.
Yeah, just matching every aspect of their lives to their character, because that's that's how people operate in real life. When you've got an entire lifetime to accumulate stuff, it's always stuff that matches your personality and your life circumstances. And so it makes sense that you put that kind of thought into the fictional characters you create as well.
So of course it rings, and Andy sees that it says mum on it, and he just says don't.
Because they're like, oh, I kind of feel sorry for Gary. Don't. And I just love how he storms into the gents, and fucking Gary's on the floor with like this robot with like blue goo everywhere, and it's missing its head. And he's he's just completely oblivious to that. He's just like, Gary, you fucking lied to me, you piece of shit.
It's honestly excellent, because they're both in a position of whatever you've got to talk about, my thing's more important.
Yeah.
And so it takes a while to get Andy to actually fucking pay attention to it, but it's only once it starts wriggling around and its head is rolling around that Andy's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
And it leads into the first big fight scene with all of them, where like all the rest of the teenage gang marching into the bathroom, and they just face off, and everyone's got an opposite number, you know. And then they hit the hand dryer, and then like the action commences, and it's just great fun to watch. Like, a lot of it's done in single take.
I was going to say, what do you think of the action in the movie overall? Because I honestly think it's kind of better than most action scenes and most stuff I see these days.
Genuinely love it. Like, I think the hallmark for great fight scenes is when just cool stuff happens, but the movie doesn't even pause to let you appreciate it. It just moves on to the next cool thing.
While simultaneously letting us see the flow. It's not like you understand how this fight has formed and how it's moving, instead of just cut to stuff happening.
Yeah.
I fucking love it when they do. And this is the thing, friends of mine have been like, you can tell where the cuts are. It's like, it's not really, that's fine. That's fine where the cuts are. It's that it feels like it's flowing. It's like the Kingsman fight in the church. It's very similar.
Yes. Yeah. Like, they obviously, for practicality's sake, yeah, okay, they have to have the occasional cut to like make it doable. But you can still follow it as a seamless kind of sequence of events that you understand. And a lot of it focuses on Peter, who's kind of cowering and trying to hide from the action, and hides in a toilet. Like, I think it's fucking Steve that gets slammed in there by a robot, and he's like, "There's someone in here."
Oh, it's such a great moment, yeah, because he's easily the most cowardly of the group. It's only right at the end of his story, if you will, that he finally gets over that and gets commits to what he wants to do. And yeah, a lot of their fighting styles just match him. Like, Andy is just fucking these things up. Like, and you can tell he's getting angrier and angrier. While, of course, oh man, he's trying to, like, it seems like he's trying to outsmart to a degree. And you gotta love when he realizes he's about to be picked up and thrown. He goes, no, like, fight.
Yeah.
That's another thing. We were just talking about, like, sort of what objects people have, what they wear, but like how they would fight will also tell you what things about these people and what they'll do when things like this happen.
Yeah.
None of it's arbitrary when you're writing characters.
I mean, a lot of the, like, later on, like, because Gary's so focused on getting the next pint in, like, there's times when everyone else is fighting for their lives, and he's just concerned with getting behind the bar so he can get the pump working and get, like, a pint for himself. And he'll fight any robot that gets in his way. Like, he'll just be standing there with his pint, like, punching them as they come. But, like, he doesn't really care about helping his friends out or anything.
And yeah, you get it's a really violent scene, but with blue blood, so it's not violent at all.
I love the bit where I think Gary rips the arm off one and then hits another one with it. And he's just in the middle of going like, Andy, did you see that? And then another one grabs him by the face.
Yeah, they have those interactions. If you remember in the bar fight, which obviously we'll get to soon enough, but he's like, Andy, twist the melon, man. And he does it. And he goes, yeah. Like, so fun.
Oh, man. And yeah, so they ultimately emerge victorious, I guess, and take them all out. And they're like, shit, we need to get out of here without arousing suspicion. So they head out. Gary puts the out of order sign on the toilets. And like, his plan is just, we can't just run away because they'll know it's us. That they'll know that we are onto them. So we have to just finish the drinks and kind of leave.
So this is where I start having a little bit of criticism for this film, because there's two things that happen here in order to make the rest of the film happen, which is they get convinced somehow by Gary that if they were to leave now, it would be too suspicious, and these aliens, I guess, would be like, nah, something's up. When, to be fair, you can leave a pub crawl whenever. That's just something that happens. And to be fair, there's a timer in the bathroom. As soon as anyone checks that, you guys are done. So it's better now than not at all. And then secondly, they highlight that, like, oh, well, even if, I think it's a little bit later, right? They highlight that if they were to leave, they can't have anyone do it because everyone's drunk. And like, I don't know about you, but I've seen this film many times. I don't know why Andy downs the shots.
No, I that was very much a matter of convenience, just so that he's drunk as well. I think it's like awoken the old Andy, like the guy who used to be Gary's friend back in the day, and it's like this has brought him to the fore again, and he's like, fuck it. Like, it's almost like he's accepted, like, whatever we do, Gary's going to have some reason why we can't leave and why we can't get out of this pub crawl. So I might as well just embrace it. I might as well just get fucked up and just go with it. And he seems to just go, oh, fuck it. And he gets 5 shots down him.
And that's probably the best I could do. And I just don't think that's that great. Because I agree with you. I think that's what they're going for. It's just that I think we should have had like at least one scene where we have him breaking down. Like we're in a situation. Yeah. The 5 shots represent the 5 pints I think that they had, right? So it catches him up. But like that's not why he would do it. This is the problem. He's characterized as very mature and very straightforward in terms of how he does everything, and then he's had a horrible experience where he nearly died, and he had like I think 12 hours of life-saving surgery is what he says.
Yeah.
And it's all because of drinking, and it's set him on a path where he doesn't drink anymore. And so then this happens with the aliens, and I feel like we're just missing like something to connect this to him deciding I'm going to drink alcohol again, because he just sort of does it, and it's like, oh. Especially, I think what makes it really hard for me to think about was they just explained that the only way they're getting out of here is with a sober driver, and he just carries on downing him.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
I mean, Gary, in this
I
case...
think Gary's fine. I follow Gary completely.
His motivation is purely like, got to finish the Golden Mile. Like, I literally don't care about the alien invasion thing.
Yeah,
it's just like, that's another excuse.
I don't know if you've heard the theory before, but some people believe that what the film was kind of telling us was that Gary was going to kill himself at the end of this. He doesn't have like any luggage, he doesn't have any possessions, and he absolutely hates his life. And he says like, this is all I have. There's a theory that he might have just decided that he was going to end it all once he gets all of his pints.
I could totally buy that, because we know that he's tried that already. You know, when you see the the bandages around his wrists right at the climax of the movie, it's like, okay, he's tried to take his own life already. And so, yeah, I could totally buy that he wanted to go out, you know, finish what he started 20 years ago, and he would have been a content man, and that would have been enough for him, and he would have just ended it.
And I do want to highlight, because we're just going through bit by bit, but in that bathroom, just golden dialogue where he's going to call his wife, and he says Vanessa, who's already introduced to Gary, and Gary's like, who? And he's like, my wife. And then he goes, whoa, we don't know how far this goes. Like, so maybe don't call the wife just in case. Then he goes, he's like, oh shit, really? And then I think Andy goes to pull out his phone, like, because they're all considering calling people.
Yeah.
And then he's like, don't call Vanessa, like, even if she's your wife. And then he's like, wait, what? And then maybe the police or whatever. And then Andy says, you just said you don't know how far this goes. Then Gary's like, oh wait, well I was only thinking about the pub. Then he goes, oh of course.
Yeah.
Like, this just the back and forth is constantly, we push plot forward, but we also keep them all so in character.
Yeah. The ability to have multi-layered dialogue like that, where everything has a secondary meaning, like, again, just hallmark of great writing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, brilliant stuff, and it just again gives you an insight into each man and what they're thinking at that point. But the eventual consensus they get is like, right, we're gonna carry on with this pub crawl and pretend like nothing's happening. And I think it gives them an excuse to skip through quite a few pubs that, you know, would have eaten up quite a lot of screen time otherwise. So they go on a few more.
Just one bit worth mentioning because of what happens and ends up happening later. But a guy walks up to him called Shane something. It's like an old bully.
Hawkins, yeah.
And he wants a seat, and he doesn't recognize Peter because he doesn't recognize anything because he's an alien. But for them, Peter takes that very badly because he was such an impactful part of his life. He doesn't even remember him. And he starts explaining it, and then he just puts down the things. He goes, shots.
That's the catalyst. That's the catalyst for Andy saying, "Fuck this! Like, this is enough. Like, we're not done. We're not gonna."
Yeah, he's like, he was explaining something very, very important, and you just like don't give a fuck. And yeah, it's really frustrating because I'm assuming we've all got friends like that who are just like, I don't fucking care what you're saying. I want to do my thing. And you're just like, oh shit, okay. And he says, which gives away more of what he's been dealing with. He says about like he pushes for information on Shane. Because I think Gary just likes to know about stuff that's happening to a degree, and then he's like, "Nah, I don't want to talk about it." And then he's like, "I think this is before, actually, sorry." And he says, "Hey, now listen, Pete. Bottling up past trauma can lead to inadequate coping strategies that later in life, or that lead to later in life, like trauma and stuff." And it's just like that was strange that you said all of that. And it's
Yeah,
like,
well, he sort of glances to the side and then he goes, "So I've heard."
yeah,
You know, just trying to cover for himself. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what you've been doing, clearly. And so, yeah, I think they reunite with Sam at the next place, don't they? Because Gary then tries to warn her about what's going on, and she doesn't believe a word he's saying because he seems
especially
to be just
after their first interaction. Like,
yeah. Because then they go into the disabled toilets, and again, it's the same situation. Like he's
Jesus Christ, Gary, take a hit. Like,
yeah.
he's like, no, I did bring you in here for sex, but I mean, if you want to do that first, like,
Yeah. Gary never misses a chance. Like,
oh, sorry, I forgot another line because I was thinking about the mum and stuff. There's something so funny about some British town names when they're used in a serious context, and he's like, when you say don't change the subject, he says, I just spoke to your mum, and not from the afterlife, from fucking Bournemouth.
yeah. It's just like the perfect name, the most mundane place you can think of.
Yeah,
Bournemouth. Shit, man. Yeah, so she doesn't believe him, and so she storms off outside, and that's when I think you meet the two twins who are talking to her out there, and they're grilling her about, did you believe what he was saying? And she's like, no, of course I didn't. And they're like, but did you believe? And like that's when they turn into like the robot things.
You know what threw me on that was, is it so they normally talk at the same time? Isn't that incredibly strange?
I know, she just doesn't twig it at all. It's kind of a weird one. Like, I know twins are just fundamentally freaky, but yeah.
Because just listen to them like connect everything, just like, wow, that's a life, I guess, that they've got going. It was worth mentioning, by the way, the pub where they have the fight is called the Crossed Hands, and the symbol is of 5 hands that are connected, being that they fought together, I think is the idea there. And then the one that I think they meet her in, was that the good companions was after that, I think, and that's when they've committed to basically completing the crawl, and so they're all like, I'm happy but not really, like, and it's the dramatic, the face of drama kind of thing, where it's like a smile and an unhappy face.
Yeah, tragedy and comedy.
Yeah, they got the one smile and then the 4 unhappy faces, which of course shouldn't need to connect the dots much further than that. Like, it's
great, the detail that they thought of, though, just for all of these places.
Yeah, I love it.
But again, really I love the fight that takes place outside in the beer garden.
It's great.
Where the twins, like, one of them ends up attaching legs to her arms, and it's just like this windmill effect.
Oh yeah, she says, "There's nothing between me and Gary King," and then the 2 legs separate them.
Yeah. And you get the kind of conflict between between Gary and Steve, where, like, Steve was in love with Sam back in the day, and there's always been this rivalry between the two guys. He always felt like Gary just went for her because he was in love with her. It's almost like he was that much of a shithead. He just wanted to, like, thwart his friend's dreams of getting with this girl that he loved.
Is present. They have a whole bunch of references. He mentions him as like he was almost a rival in that he's like a second-rate Gary King in a way. That's how Gary sees him, I think. But at the same time, they have a rivalry, but they also have camaraderie. When he puts that tape in, Steve's immediately like happy with it and sort of move into it. He's like, oh, this is awesome. And because of course, like, he made it, and it's like, so that's in line. I think when he first meets him, he's like, I'm getting the band back together, and he's like, I sold my bass like years ago or something like that.
No, like, Gary sold it to pay for drugs.
Oh yeah, there you go. And yeah, of course they went after the same girl and stuff, so there's a lot between those two specifically that keeps coming up. So I mean, like, they're not like the bargain bin characters. They all have purpose within the script. They all have their own sort of identities.
I love when like one of the twins, like, just slams Sam's head into, like, the table outside and knocks her out. Yeah. But then Gary kind of fights them off, and he holds out his hand to Sam, and she's like, oh, thank you. And she reaches for him. He's like, no, chuck us a cigarette. And, like, there's a packet of cigarettes just on the ground next to her.
She grabs him and he doesn't pick her up.
Yeah. It's that much of an asshole.
She sees all of that, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on?" He goes, "Oh, I explained it to you in the disabled." And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
right."
it's like, yeah, you did.
as if that helps. Like, I told you it was robots. Like, what?
And it leads into genuinely one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, where again they explain to Sam like their plan of carrying on with the Golden Mile pub crawl, and she's like, "Why are we doing this? Like, what the hell is the point of this?" And it's Nick Frost who just says, "Look, we're pretending that we don't know what's going on, and they're gonna not know that we know what we're doing, and basically no one knows what's going on. So fuck it." And he just punches his hand right through a glass door,
Which he ends up having to put a bandage on, and we do see that later.
Yes. Yeah,
Nicely done. Because again, I think I would be sitting here with you right now saying, can't really punch glass without getting away without a wound of some kind. But okay, I guess. But no, they put the bandage on.
yeah.
We did. We have accidentally skipped over one of the bars where they meet with the Reverend Green.
Oh yeah, the guy who sold drugs to Gary back in the day.
Which you might call him a trusty servant.
Yeah, indeed.
The bar.
I actually thought he was Tim Roth for some reason. He looks exactly like the guy. I don't know what it is. But yeah, he's like. I think you find out he's a human, but he's in the service of the robot aliens, and so the idea is like if you just play by the rules and don't make a fuss, then everything's fine. But if you start saying too much or you make a fuss, then that's it. You'll get mulched basically and replaced with a robot. And I think that's what happens to him.
The secret communication where he knocks 3 times or whatever, just goes, "What have I
got drugs?" Yeah.
That's where we lose O-Man as well.
Yeah, he goes into the toilets, doesn't he, or something?
And you can tell, I think, from his hair, it's all, and of course the birthmark, it's all like over the place, and he's talking drunk. He's like, oh, when he comes back, he is very like he's straight as an arrow. He can say everything perfectly, and he's everything he says is in favor of the aliens, just subtler than completely overt.
Yeah. And yeah, he's leading them on to the next pub and the next thing.
That lines up with he left at that point in the original time they did it because he had too much to drink.
Yes. Yeah, good point. Yeah, because I think Gary almost twigs it at that point where he's like, oh, at this point in the night you were out of commission. And there's a really ominous beat where he's like he's going to figure it out, and then he's like, I fucking love the new old man.
and again, Martin Freeman goes, no. It's a nice little because he's thinking, oh shit, has he got me? And then he just goes, oh okay, yeah. Great.
Yeah. There's another bit where they talk about the marmalade sandwich.
Yes,
with like the 3 hot girls that they fancied in high school, and then you see them when they go to like the next place, which is like it's like a nightclub basically, and it's all just like school's out kind of theme. Like all the people there are young and they're in school uniform and stuff. Yeah, they've run into what they think is like the girls that they fancied back in high school, and they're still clearly teenagers.
That place is called the Mermaid as well.
The Mermaid, yeah, that's it.
With and someone said it in chat already, but it should be obvious. The 2-headed dog was the previous one, and it's the twins, obviously.
Yep. Yep. Oh god, it's so good.
Yeah.
And I just love how one of them swallows Nick Frost's wedding ring. He just takes his finger into her mouth and swallows it, and then obviously there's a payoff for that later. But yeah, it's. I think that's. God, where does that lead into?
So there's a lot of things that happen in the club, and it's interesting because I've always associated that part of the movie as the slowest. And it's not because I don't like it, but because they get everything out of the way in terms of like, we're finally going to get some information on what the fuck's happening. Because if you remember, David Bradley starts explaining all of it. And he has a couple of I love that man in everything he does. He's just such a good actor. He really comes through on all the characters he plays. But if you remember the exchange where he says, and don't ask me about the empties. And he goes, why? What happens to them? And he goes, I told you not to ask me that.
Yeah. He was just fantastic in Hot Fuzz, where he was just this mad old bastard that had like a big arsenal of weapons in his barn.
Yeah. And
it's just an old piece of junk.
You said you'd seen Clarkson's Farm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fucking character in that show that has the exact same problem. You can't hear what he's saying. Like, it's too beyond.
I fucking love that. The weird thing is, right, this dude is like 70 odd years old, like the guy in Clarkson's farm, but
Yeah. He's
he's
still
got the
got colour in
shaved
his
mullet and
hair.
everything. Yeah. God. Just mad as fuck, and he doesn't care. I love it. um,
Yeah, lots of things happen in that club. Obviously, he gets told about all of that stuff and then told to get out of there, I think. And Sam sees someone who's dead. So
yeah, it's about a guy that she used to fancy back in high school, because it's Martin Freeman that introduces her to him, which gives you your clue that he's one of them. He's like, oh, didn't you fancy this guy? Well, look, there he is over there. Go see him.
Oh, that's another. Sorry, because I just remember this was back when I think they decided to leave. But it's another example of him screwing with the language, Gary, when he says, "We can't not do this because it's the anniversary. It's important." And then he says, "No, we're in October and we did this in June." He goes, "No, it's the anniversary of the year."
It's the anniversary of every year.
I love the interactions like that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, just Gary always finds a way out of everything.
Yeah.
So
from there, because like I said, she freaks out because of that. He's been told the history, and then the three of them, the other three, obviously Andy and Pete and Steve. No, not Steven. It's why am I blanking?
Oh man,
Yeah.
No, Andy, Steve, and Pete and Gary.
Yeah, Gary. I love how the one I forgot was Gary,
the main character.
Yeah, the three of them are getting like completely convinced by what are equivalent to sirens at this point, and they all get dragged out, and you head to the Beehive, which I think the dialogue in that scene, as well as the fact that there's so many of them, is we need to work together as a team, peacefully, cooperatively, which obviously bees tend to work together. I'm assuming that's the idea there. It's the huge offer they give, like join the hive, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's drones, isn't it, who kind of obey the larger purpose, and it's Pierce Brosnan who delivers it. And damn, he's just a smooth motherfucker in this movie.
I always like it when he turns up and stuff. I like Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah. I think he's kind of embraced like just taking on like more fun roles as he's gotten older, and I like it.
Yeah. And then I think while they're all talking about their amazing plan, or he talks about it, O-Man is like, wow, so you guys aren't here to hurt us at all. Like he's very, suspicious, and then they notice he's got the birthmark.
Yeah.
So Andy takes his head off.
Yeah. Well, he just like smashes it, and like it's like he's got the bottom half of his head, but like the rest of it is just empty. It's like a glass tankard that's been shattered or something like that. But he stays like that for the rest of the movie, which is great.
And it wasn't even just the birthmark. If you remember when they come into the bar, Andy's last, and O-Man says, "Come on, Andy, it can't start without you." And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "We can't start without you."
Yeah,
it's just like like super suspicious.
The clues are definitely there.
Yeah,
and so I think they kill Pierce Brosnan, but then another one comes in. They end up fighting a whole bunch of like the drones or the blanks or whatever. I think is that when Nick Frost like rips his shirt off and just like gets the two like stools, and he's like, "I fucking hate this town."
I like all the fight scenes in the movie. That one's my favorite. It's so fun. Everybody's doing stuff all over the place. The camera keeps moving around, and I absolutely adore the process of Gary getting his beer. It's great.
Yeah.
They keep interrupting him and all kinds of. He even does some pretty cool like fight moves. He finally wins, and then they knock it out of his hands. And he's, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Yeah. Oh, it's great because like it goes back to what I said earlier. Like he just is focused on getting his pint, and so he'll punch any robot that gets in his way. Yeah. But like he's not interested in winning the fight. He just wants to get the next pint down him.
Which is interesting because he does make what I think is a pretty important character choice in that scene. He has to commit to he can drink his beer or he can save Sam, and he decides to save her.
Yeah.
Which after reviewing Black Widow, man, like seriously, action scenes you have to remember they have to be in character. You can't just have them do random shit. It has to be in character.
I love the bit where I think they fight their way upstairs to make a run for it, and her car is parked below, and she's like, "Oh, we can shimmy down the drain pipe," and he's like, "Forget the drain pipe." He just throws himself off and smashes into the roof of the car.
Use the drain pipe.
The comedy timing of that scene is just perfection. Like, honestly, it couldn't have been shot better. I love stuff like that.
I've completely forgotten when this interaction happens, but I really want to talk about it. Do you remember what they talk about pronouns? Because it all happens, I think, because they're talking about how to name the aliens.
Yes.
Like, we call them robots, we call them whatever. And then he says, "Is he one of them or one of them?" And then we need to separate these out. This not making sense. It's getting confused. And he says, I think he says these pronouns are getting confused. And he goes, "I don't even know what a pronoun is." And then they go, "It's a word that can function by itself as a noun, which refers to something else in the discourse." And then Gary's like, "I don't get it." And then Andy says, "Well, you just used one." He goes, "I did?" And he goes, "Yeah, I." He goes, "It's." And he goes, "It's a pronoun." He goes, "What is it?" "It's." And he goes, "Christ!" Like, shut the fuck up.
Great. I mean, try and live in today's world of pronouns. Like, man, these guys would have a field day.
I love Andy's just all the examples of him getting so fucking frustrated with Gary's just the way that he talks, like all the time. Every time it's like any conversation ends, you just see him getting badder and badder. And the one we mentioned before about he's like, because of all the stuff with the mum, they're concerned about their family members naturally, and he says, "Oh yeah, you know, my mum could be dead for real this time." And Andy's holding a glass and he smashes it and goes, "Fuck!"
There's quite a lot of scenes like that where like they've just been drinking from a pint and they'll just drop it and it'll smash. Yep. Yeah, I love the bit where Andy just crushes it in his hand. That's just fucking brilliant.
I was losing my shit with all three of these films. The comedy is so top notch.
Yeah,
and it all follows like a through line. It's not random. Like these things are really fun because you believe these people feel this way and it's funny.
Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this before, how when they were choreographing all the fight scenes throughout the movie, they were operating on the idea that the more drunk these characters got, like the better they became at fighting, because they lost all their inhibitions and they just go in 100%. I absolutely get it. Like, it's really clumsy and they're just trying to protect themselves in the first couple of fights. And then by the end, there's just no fucks given. Like, they're just absolutely throwing themselves into it. It's great. It's great to watch.
Because when I think it's when Steve's fighting the twins, he tells him to, or I don't know if he tells him, but he's like, take the head off as well. And when he does that, Gary just does like, yes, as well. He's like so enjoying the fighting along with, because this is the thing, Gary really doesn't care that there's an alien invasion that much. He's trying to enjoy the night.
Yeah, he just wants to be with his friends and he wants to get messed up, you know. I love the scene as well. Like, this is jumping back a little bit, but like it's one of those like intercut bits where they're just going from pub to pub, and like they all down a pint simultaneously, and then they're like, "Drink fun, let's go." Yeah, okay. And like that's not the kind of scene that you could have filmed many times. Like, you kind of had to get that right first time, because there's there's only so many pints you can neck before you're full up.
I do wonder with that scene, especially with the burp, because it's a really like good sounding bit. I wonder if it's ADR for some of it, because like you don't have to film that, like you just said, like drinking, even if it's colored water, you don't want to drink a pint of it again and again and again.
Yeah,
but it's really good stuff anyway.
And I think it then they all split up from that point on, and they meet up back at it's like a bowling a bowls green, you know, and it's just like the clubhouse for that. And again, it mirrors what you saw at the very start of the movie when Gary's describing it, how they all become really paranoid there, where they think that Gary might be one of the blanks now because he's been out of contact with them. He thinks that they might be it, and they each can prove it, because when they copy you, they just copy your original genetics. So if you've ever picked up scars in your lifetime, they won't show up, basically. So they're all able to prove that they've got the scars and that they are who they claim to be. And I think Gary's one is Andy says to him, like, you've got a scar on your arm where you dislocated your elbow and you had to get a plate put in, and he refuses to show him because he's got the bandages on his arms where he tried to end his life. He tried to cut his wrists, and so he won't show them. And so he resorts to headbutting a wall to not crack his head open, I guess, to prove that he is who he claims to be. And it's not until he starts going like, "Ow, fuck's sake!" They're like, "Yeah, that's Gary." Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, I referenced this actual moment in the Black Widow review. If you remember when she smashes her head on the desk, it's done in like fucking 4 or 5 cuts. It like goes boom, 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 boom. It's really awkward. Right here, though, it's all one, aside from when they change angles, of him just slamming his face into the wall over and over again.
Yeah.
Obviously,
isn't that the interesting difference in how movies are made when they're done well.
I would argue it gets you. It engages you a lot more if you can believe the shit is happening, even though obviously it's not. It's like you're just like, oh shit, yeah. And yeah, just before that, by the way, worth mentioning, in the first one, Shaun of the Dead, you got the wonderful joke with the fence walls, and then in Hot Fuzz, you have the complete subversion where it's not about how he manages to get over it; he just falls straight through it. And in this one, and I love how they did it. He kicks the door open, and the camera pans through, and it's like, "Oh shit, it's the fences!" Like, he just goes, "Oh no!"
The whole thing collapses. I think out of the 3, my favorite one is Nick Frost just tumbling through the fence in Hot Fuzz. It's just, I love the fact that he just fucking stumbles up to it. Watching Nick Frost running in this movie generally is just really funny because he obviously he's a bigger guy.
The scene where he's running from the crazy monsters and all the people and stuff, I was like, damn, this, like, in all fairness to the guy, like, this would be rough for a person of that size to keep having to do filming of just sprinting.
Yeah.
So good on him.
But
he's a forward roll too.
But he uses his raw strength to just barrel through them.
Yeah.
When there's a bunch of them in his path. I think Gary sidesteps them and stuff, whereas Andy just plows right through them because he's got the momentum.
That's another line, by the way, in relation to the twins. When he's talking to Sam, trying to convince her, she says, "You had sex with them," or something in relation to like something to do with what he said. And he goes, "A, I did not, and B, how do you know about that?"
Does he not even say like, "Oh, I'm not proud of it, but I really am."
There was like 4 of them because I'm so drunk.
Yeah. Oh, fuck's sake! The lines, because this is the thing. Like, the sign of good writing is where you never pause for a laugh; you just move straight onto the next gag. And that's what this does because it's so confident. Like, the next one is going to be funny as well. It never gives you a pause to like make you wait for it. I just love that.
That was a cool giveaway for Oman as well when she says the guy had been dead for 8 years, and he goes, "Did he?" And he just smiles as if like, "Fuck, like we got that wrong." I guess it's just a cool little interaction. And the thing is, I think it's obvious that he's a blank the second he comes back. He's literally just like, "Hi everybody, what's going on?" And it's just like, we haven't seen you in a while. But I still really like that. Obviously, all of them are very drunk. So, like, why would they believe instantly that he's like a blank or whatever? They wouldn't even bother checking. And so all this like dialogue to give it away and stuff was really cool.
Yeah. I think this is the point as well where Pete gets taken down because he encounters his childhood bully again who, tries to apologize to him and says, "Oh, man, I want to make amends for all the shit that I put you through. And like, I just want to put it behind us." And he tries to shake his hand, and then you cut back to him and he's just pummeling this guy into the ground. And Gary's like, "It's not worth it." And he's like, "Yes, it fucking is."
I love the cut where he goes off screen, then he comes back on with his branch. Just he's like screaming.
That always reminded me of Faulty Towers. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's where Basil's car breaks down, and he just like, again, perfect comedy timing where he goes off screen, the camera just stays on the car, and then like after a good 10 seconds he comes back with a branch, just starts whacking it. "I'm gonna give you a damn good thrashing."
Dude, all of Faulty Towers is like a masterpiece, just top notch.
Ah, Christ.
And yeah, we go from it's really funny and like engaging to basically probably the biggest horror moment of the whole film. They all surround him and they just they do that scream as well. Like this film could have gone to more the horror route if it wanted to, because these things were quite creepy at their worst.
Yeah. Yeah, when you see it, I think when they're just standing there with their mouths gaping open and their eyes, like, light coming out of them, it's a little bit Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that thing that they do where it's like, so it's a good effect. And that's Pete out of the game. So all you've got that left then is Gary, Andy, and Steve. And I think that's when you eventually lose Steve, because I think he tries to escape in the Beast. Yeah, because they discover that they have to go through a pub in order to get to the car so that they can drive out of there.
Which would be the King's Head, I think, is that pub. Like they realize that's gonna, and I think Andy's just like, for fuck's sake, of all the odds that we'll be good technically staying on the bar crawl.
Yeah. Because it's like, I can't believe they have to go through a fucking pub. So they dump Andy, they dump Gary just on the bar while they figure out what they're going to do next. And then when they turn back to him, he's just pouring himself a pint. He's like back up and running.
It's done in, again, almost like a really suspenseful way where they both realize, like, Gary, like, I get how invested you are. And I really love the way that they do it, because he says, like, so close, 10 out of 12 or whatever it is. He puts the pen back in his jacket and he feels his keys, which gives him the idea of, I can give them the car and I can just, because I'll die. Like, who cares? They can get out. Because if I'm holding them back, they can go at this point. I've got to get those last beers. Such a great moment, because when he jingles the keys, you can tell Andy knows. He's like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And he does. And again, it's just like, I think it thoroughly makes sense that Gary just sees no fucking point in not just getting those beers done. Like, he really doesn't give a shit about the aliens. It's like, whatever. The whole world's going to hell. My world's already gone to hell, so.
Yeah. Just before we go on, mate, could you possibly excuse me for 30 seconds or so? Because the beers that I've had have started to make their way through. So I just need to duck out for a second. Just amuse yourself with chat for a minute while I deal with it. I'll be right back.
Now, no problem.
Right. Go, man.
All right, chat. What are you up to? This movie inspired a real funny board game. It's called Pints of Blood, and you fight back zombies with your friends in a pub. That sounds like fun. Good stuff. Also got different things. I guess while he's gone, I did release the Black Widow video today. It was 4 hours and 18 minutes. Took ages to make. Had some help from Fringy and Meme. Was lots of fun. But let's just say that movie was a bit stinky, a bit of a oof. But don't go watching that until you've watched all of this stream, because we got all kinds of things to happen. MauLer plushies. I will mention them a little bit later, probably when we're through the movie, and we end this saga, the Cornetto Trilogy. Me and Drinker have to come up with something else to cover at this point. Maybe you guys can come up with some ideas. I was also mentioning Pirates of the Caribbean. That could be fun. Maybe one at a time. I don't know, but I do indeed hate women. That is true. It's funny because there's a video inside the video of me complimenting the shit out of a Black Widow scene in a prior movie, so maybe that counts as I don't hate women entirely. I would hope so. Thank you all for complimenting the video. Like I said, it took a while, and getting it out was a desperate issue at this point, because we were running into a bunch of other events happening, just like this one. I didn't want to screw up and have it released at the same time it's supposed to be on here as well. Could have been rather awkward. Hello.
All right, I made it back. Don't worry, everyone. I am here. There you go. Cheers.
Hey.
That's the problem I foresee with something like the Golden Mile, right? Doing 12 pints in one night. You spend your whole night drinking beer. You're going to spend the rest of your night pissing it out. I just don't know how you get through it.
I don't know how I would get through it without starting super early so I can process the drinks, if you know what I mean. Like, taking 12 pints, like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what they do in this movie. Like, it's still daylight when they start out.
Yeah.
they get to like the second or third pub, and Nick Frost is like, "Fucking hell, it's not even 6 o'clock yet." So they obviously do think they're going to give themselves a bit of time to do it, but 12 is quite a lot. Anyway, sorry. Where did we get to with the movie?
So in terms of bar, the King's Head. Oh, you hear the vending machine in there. Sorry, not vending machine, slot machine. And it goes. This is like, yay! A satisfying little reference.
Yeah, nice Shaun of the Dead.
And he leaves, and Steven's like, leave him. He left you, and obviously that's not quite how morality works. Unfortunately, just because someone does something to you doesn't mean you'll do it to them. And obviously Andy can't leave him.
Yeah, but again, it just shows what a solid guy Andy is. Like, he's a better man than than Gary had been.
Of course,
he's ever the loyal friend, basically.
Yeah, and so he leaves. Steven gets the car, and they reunite at the next pub. Which that's after the big chase with the big machine crazy mod knot thing, right?
Yeah, that always felt a bit out of place. Like, it seemed a bit unnecessary. Like, I get how it was referenced right at the start when they first arrive. I just didn't feel like you needed it.
I think there's points that are trying to be made about it, especially with it being mod knot, but it really does come across as strange. It's like, wait, they have robot things? Like, what are they, like statues that are they like an art, like, what's going on there? It's like, it's just an art statue that also comes alive. You're like, okay, that seems weird, but okay. And of course he manages to catch up with him after I can't remember if that part of the film where he meets up with the girl who ate his ring, or is that a bit later?
That is when they're running towards the world's end.
Yeah,
the final one where it's like she's just in his path. And she's like, come with me. Like, I can make all your dreams come true, or something to that effect. And he's like, yeah. Okay. No, she says, I want you inside me. And he's like, okay. And then he just punches his fist right into her stomach, gets the wedding ring.
Oh, that payoff is satisfying as hell. Like, just fucks her up. And it's worth mentioning as well, when he gets to the bar and he's like, Gary, and then he gets into the room, he knows where he is. Gary immediately is like, Andy, look out. They're gonna get you. Like, sort of thing. Like, if Gary can get what he wants, he'll still express concern for people like that he cares about. He just puts himself first, obviously.
Yeah. Well, he tells Sam to leave. He gets her in the car and tells her to leave. And there's quite a poignant moment where he says about Steve. He's better for you. He's a better man than I ever was. And it's like him acknowledging that as much as I like you, I can never be with you. I'm not the person that you deserve. And I think that's a moment of like a bit of altruism from Gary. Obviously, he tries to milk it later for, I did the right thing there. Give me applause.
And, I think Andy takes a while to get them to, back off. And in that time, he's finished his beer. And so now we've just got one left. And I think when they're arguing or something, that's when Steve bursts in with the car. Hence the pub name, The Hole in the Wall.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. and like Gary, I just love how Gary just nonchalantly dives through a window.
Oh, it's great, yeah. And he wants him to get in, but of course Gary's moving on, so that means Andy's moving. Well, Andy, I think, has trouble at that moment figuring out what he's going to do, and then all the blanks are crawling all over Steve's car, so he has to leave him.
Yeah,
I think Steve even says like, "Andy, get out of here," sort of thing.
Yeah, and he kind of reverses out, so you're not quite sure what's happened to Steve at that point.
Well, the statue's grabbing him, he's pulling him out.
Right, yeah. And so it's Andy and Gary left. They both run into the world's end. And there's a pint waiting for Gary there, like at the bar.
It's even labeled 12.
Yeah, and he's holding it up like, this is it. This is the final one. Like, it's like a real look of triumph on his face. Like, this is everything that I've been building up to.
Yeah,
and Andy just comes and knocks it out of his hand, and you get this great this scene where the two of them end up fighting each other, and you get like a series of fights as it gets more and more desperate, and they both like reveal the shit that's going on in their lives in this moment. It's so well done. It's just perfectly choreographed, perfectly scored with the music and everything.
Yeah,
I can't fault it.
I think because it opens with like, why the hell do you care about this? And then he's like, of course I care. There's a reason I'm angry at you. It's like, yeah, it all comes back to Andy believed in Gary King at one point as like the person to stay with and look after and stuff. And then you have Gary say, I know why you're angry at me, but it's not my fault you crashed that car.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this kind of person who just he can't see through the weeds of exactly what the problem is. Instead, just like tries to sort of slither away with responsibility. It's like, it wasn't me that crashed it, so it's fine. It's like when the whole problem is you abandoned him.
Yes. And I love that line from Andy where he's like, you're Gary fucking King. I would have followed you to the end. And he's like, he looks around and he's like, I fucking have.
Yeah.
He's in the world's end. And yeah, they end up, like, he admits that he's estranged from his wife and he's trying to win her back, but like it's a losing fight.
Yeah, because this is a super important moment for Gary. He's like, everybody's got what they want. You've got what you want. Everything's perfect for you guys. And he's like, no, it's not. Things aren't perfect. It's not perfect for anybody. It's just that's how it works.
Yeah. And like his thing is like, well, what's so important to you about the Golden Mile? Like that's the thing you keep obsessing over. And he just says it's all I've got.
Yeah.
And they end up fighting behind the bar, and that's when you see the bandages around Gary's wrists, and you realize like he's tried to off himself, and that's when Andy says to him like, you need help. And I love this line from Gary where he's like, I got help already. Like, help was a bunch of people talking about how fucking awful things were. Like, that's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Andy's like, and this is? And this line that he delivers, like, is Simon Pegg's acting is flawless here, where he's like, they told me when to go to bed.
Yeah.
Like a man who's just been broken down into like the bare essentials of just living. He's been reduced to like a child. All his dignity and all his self-respect just stripped away because he was put into care, I suppose.
That's the thing, yeah. It's destroyed his life. His desperation to relive the glory days, and he associates that directly with the pub, his friends, having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he even says it, doesn't he? He's like, it never got better than that night. That night was supposed to be the start of my life. And all that confidence, all that optimism that we felt, it was just a big lie. Like nothing ever happened after that. And yeah, that's what leads him to hit the beer pump, because like Andy's saying to him, "Oh, you don't have to do this, Gary." And he's like, "Yeah, I do." He just hits the pump, and like that opens like a trapdoor that leads them, like the whole bar just goes down underground into this big subterranean layer. Where the aliens have been based, I suppose.
Which to me, that the whole scene with the aliens and stuff is just like basically the summary of what this movie's getting at, which is you got like two extremes: the hyper-controlled aliens, or the extreme freedoms that leave you to self-destruction.
Yeah,
like the and what should we do about that? What does it mean? What does it say about everything? And yeah, the they told me where to go to bed thing. To me, that's the fundamental issue. Is the human beings, we fucking love freedom. We do not like being told where to go and what to do. But of course, it can lead to extreme problems if that's led to the nth degree. But the solution is not to turn us into slaves. that's way worse.
Yeah, particularly relevant nowadays, I would say. Like, it's almost like this movie was ahead of its time. But yeah,
I think this movie would be considered controversial if it came out now for the point it makes.
Yeah, oh yeah, individuality. We don't like that.
They literally argue that. Well, there's a lot of ways to interpret it, right? Because they end up, the world falls apart when they choose freedom, and so you could argue that it's saying we would rather die on our own terms than live quote unquote happily on some other force.
Yeah, it's either like a gilded cage or kind of impoverished freedom, and they choose the latter. And you could argue that that's the right choice, because ultimately all the characters end up happier and more fulfilled people as a result.
They admit that a lot of the stuff they thought that they loved wasn't actually that great, and that they've found like sort of new meanings in a lot of different things.
Yeah. I love the conversation with the network, and it's voiced by Bill Nye. And he keeps trying to argue his point, and he just gets more and more desperate. Like, yeah, okay, well, we've had problems. Like, there's been issues with assimilating different cities and cultures and stuff. And eventually, like, he just goes, you know what? Fuck it.
That little bit was great. And yeah, Bill Nye's role, it's just reduced each movie. Like, not in a bad way. It's just that it's funny how he goes from secondary character to tertiary character to voice of almost a cameo.
Yeah.
I do love Bill Nye, so I always like to see him in stuff anyway.
I loved him in Shaun of the Dead. Like, that first scene where he's in the electronics store where Sean works, and he just spins around on his heel to face Sean, like, really dramatic.
He's getting frustrated because he keeps getting bullshit from Gary as well, where he's like, there's only one Gary King, and then he says, yeah, there's more than one Gary King. He goes, but you just said. He goes, I fucking know what I fucking said.
Just a drunken, belligerent arsehole that's somehow speaking for the whole of humanity. Yeah, oh man, it's and he recycles the words of the song that he heard right at the beginning of the movie. We want to be free to be whatever we want and to get loaded and have a good time.
Yeah, because it's a clip from a movie as well, right? It's a speech from, I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's a fundamental of human beings should be allowed to make mistakes. And to a degree, we don't want a perfect world. I don't think anybody actually would want that. It reminds me of, if you remember in The Matrix, they tell us that one of the original builds of The Matrix was that everybody was given everything they wanted, and it didn't work. It kept breaking.
Yeah, no one could accept it. Yeah.
Which, again, I think there's a truth to that. Human beings, their nature, I think, really we need to have something to overcome a lot of the time. Some goals, something to defeat, problems to solve. Is how we've come to be, so.
I think so, yeah. And I think that's, in some ways, I think that's why we encounter a lot of the problems that we do today, because there's really not much to challenge us, but there's also nothing really to aim for at the moment. Like, I think maybe as the new sort of space race kicks off, maybe that'll give us something to aspire to. But right now, it's just like, we just bitch and moan about stupid, pointless shit because, like, there's nothing else to do. It's like boredom.
When you solve, like, loads of major problems, and so for certain people, they'll just sit around being like, wow, I've got no concerns. Mom and dad pay for everything. I've got this, like, Twitter account where I can complain constantly. What else is there to worry about? It's like, oh, you know what? Fucking, I don't know, Teletubbies is racist. I need to tweet about this. This is the biggest problem we have to deal with right now. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective, I suppose.
It really is, and I think a lot of these, like, if humanity or like our kind of culture had something new to strive towards, I think a lot of those complaints would fade out a little bit. And I just really hope that happens because, God, I hate what we're becoming at the moment. It's really depressing.
Yeah. And honestly, man, like when I rewatched this today, by the way, ahead of the stream, I was kind of surprised by that ending, listening to it again. I was like, man, this is hitting some stuff that we've been dealing with lately. Jeez.
Yeah, it really has. Give up your free will to feel safe and secured and have someone else do your thinking for you. Whoa, that's...
And the network is nothing but friendly, and he explains the reasoning, and then he simultaneously is like, yes, 98% failure, but, like, it's all right.
Yeah. Just play by the rules and everything will be fine. Don't question it. Just go along with it. That's all we ask, and everything will be okay. Yeah. Wow, gosh, that rings a lot of bells nowadays.
And I think there's a moment where they ask the network what happens to the people who don't work, and you hear Basil in the background say, "I told you not to ask them that."
I just love when it all self-destructs as well, and like they're driving their car out of New Haven, and like they just get past the sign for like the town limits, and Gary's like, "Oh, we made it!" And then the explosion just goes right past them, takes over the entire world.
Someone in chat just mentioned people who blame Gary King and his team for ruining everything at the end failed to realize like the aliens' plan has already failed. It's like, yeah, it's already fucked. The aliens basically had to kill every human in order to assimilate them. It's like, so that's not working then. Like that's fucked.
Yeah. I think it's a good message ultimately of this movie, that it preaches individuality, even if it means a harder life. Ultimately, it's a more fulfilling life.
It reminds me of Hot Fuzz, where it was like you could play life entirely controlled and constantly looking to achieve the best possible, or you can go through life and not do much of anything at all and just be lazy and stuff. Or the healthy thing, probably find some kind of balance, because like you don't want to go to the extreme and basically just constantly drink, constantly eat, constantly.
Well, be careful what you say there, MauLer.
Hey, you're not constantly drinking. Like I can see you fine right now. Oh no. You want to avoid overindulgence, I guess, is what I'm saying, versus absolutely avoid complete like a lack of individuality at all.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, and you want to be able to make your own mistakes. We need to be able to make mistakes, which, by the way, is like a partial theme in TLJ, which I think they've done way better in this film, obviously.
Yeah.
Because the network is like, we're looking for perfection. We don't want to have a capacity for failure. And it's like, fuck that.
Yeah, if you don't have the freedom to fail, then you don't have a life, because you don't have any self-determination. And so that's the fundamental drive and the meaning behind characters like Gary. He's the most extreme example, but yeah, everyone ultimately learns that same lesson by the end of the film. And I love that little moment where Andy's talking about, because he's the one who's narrating all of this. And he's like, I don't really miss processed foods. And you just see this moment of him stood next to a fence, a chain link fence, and a Cornetto wrapper just blows against it. He just looks at it with such longing. Like, oh, man.
Yeah, the way that they did it was red for Shaun of the Dead, blue for Hot Fuzz Police, and then green for Aliens and this.
Yeah.
The Cornetto flavors. It's nicely done.
Perfect, yeah.
And as far as I know, that became a thing after Shaun of the Dead, right? Like, it wasn't intended at first, I don't think.
I imagine it wasn't until Hot Fuzz came out and Cornettos again were referenced that people started saying, it's going to be the Cornetto series.
Yeah.
And it became the Cornetto Trilogy.
I tell you what, man, like, I wish there were more than 3 in some ways. I obviously only want them to tell the stories they want to tell, but, like, I could really go for more movies like this.
As long as it wasn't constrained by modern movie making rules and stuff, I would be 100% on board with doing another one.
Yeah, that's where I pause, because I'm like, I don't know if these movies would exist this way now. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not even that old. It's less than 10 years old, but you look back and think, oh man, like there's bits in it that just, I feel like they wouldn't be allowed now.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
Do you remember about the disables? She says, like, what happened? Like, in reference to Gary, and then he says, I don't know, maybe they stuffed some toilet paper down there. You don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, you don't know what goes through their minds. It was like, the other week, Az and I were doing Tropic Thunder.
Oh god, yeah.
And again, just a movie that you could not possibly make nowadays, like so irreverent and so funny as a result. But like it wouldn't be allowed to mock disabled people or racial insensitivity or anything like that. But the movie is just absolutely brilliant for doing all of that, because it never picks on anyone particularly. It takes aim at everybody.
Yeah.
And
it's just a fun time for everybody, pretty much.
Yeah. And I just think, like, now, damn, what are you supposed to laugh at anymore in films? I don't get it. I don't know what we're supposed to find funny anymore.
That's the thing, man. We're lucky to be on a neutral level these days. Like, we are lucky to get a film that is just fine. It's like, oh shit, if that happens, like, nice, good job. Like, films that infuriate me are much more common now.
Yeah, very much. I mean, that's why I was so surprised by Suicide Squad. I watched that and I was like, yeah, it's pretty dumb and it's definitely got lots of problems, but like, I actually laughed quite a bit at it.
Yeah, I really like the characters in it.
Yeah. Some of the jokes really landed,
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I didn't know we could still have films like this. I didn't know that was allowed.
No, I was completely unaware myself. So by the way, I expected it to be terrible. I honestly did. I'd heard from lots of people that it was a really bad outing and that there's lots of different constraints and it was rushed and just all this stuff. And I was like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer and I just thought this is going to be a fucking dumpster fire. It did not look good from the trailer whatsoever, but then the movie turned out to be way better than I expected.
I think I was sold after the bus scene where they all talked about parts of the history. I was like, I think I'm actually invested right now. Oh shit! Like this is a weird feeling I haven't had in a while.
Yeah. When Flag was fighting Peacemaker, I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I actually really care about how this plays out.
Dude.
Like,
Not to jump into a different movie, but when Flag died, I was like, oh my god, I didn't give a fuck about you in the previous movie, but I actually cared here.
They made him likable. I think they still struggled with Harley.
Yeah,
They still don't know what to do with her, and it's such a shame because like Margot Robbie's just giving it her all. It's like, give her some good material
to bring a script to life. She keeps trying, but she keeps getting given the like. I thought James Gunn could have done it if he did the rest, but like I thought she was like the weakest character in there. I don't get what they're trying to do with it. I never get it.
No. It feels like they want to give her like some really meaningful like story, but like it doesn't tie into the main narrative, so they just have to invent something that just sets aside from everything else. And so you've got her doing this weird subplot with like the president, and it's good payoff. Like she ends up shooting him and stuff, and that's kind of funny. But it leaves her feeling just removed from the rest of the movie, and it's an odd choice. I don't know why they did it.
Yeah, I think she should have just been with Flag. And then, you know, you have, at least with Flag, she probably should have been with a whole lot of them for the whole movie. But, you know, they tried to have a payoff of sorts where she and Flag are friends and that she's really sad that he died. And I was just like, man, I had no fucking clue you guys were friends.
No, I never got that. I must admit, I'll commend this movie as well for the opening where you get to see like these really shitty superheroes just going up against men with guns and just getting completely annihilated.
Yeah.
Like Detachable Arm Man, and you just see his arms getting shot. It's like writhing about in pain on the floor.
in fairness, Boomerang was cooler in those seconds than I thought he was in the all of the 2016 one.
Oh, so many people have said that. It's like he did more in 5 minutes in this film than he did in like the whole previous movie. And it's true. It really is.
I was actually a little bit good when he died because I kind of found him fun, and I thought that maybe he could work with the rest of the characters.
Yeah. He had some good lines, like when that dude was talking about Weasel, and he's like, oh, is that a dog? He's like, a dog? What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
Yeah, and then you had Nathan Fillion being like, I think that's an Afghan hound.
Oh, shit, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got some super chats that obviously have been coming in all throughout this. So
yeah, I suppose if someone wanted like a summary, I think the soundtrack's excellent, the acting's excellent, the script is top notch in the realm of top notch, but I do think it suffers a little bit compared to the other two. Like I said, there's just a little pieces here and there about character and then a couple pieces about plot, but still the dialogue is fantastic, and I'm desperate for dialogue like this. I felt like I got a lot of it in the Suicide Squad. Just dare I say, clever dialogue, just stuff that makes me think, instead of just stuff that's serving a purpose for the writer to get to the next payoff.
I honestly just want to hire Edgar Wright to do script doctoring on every script that comes out of Hollywood. It's like, you just work your magic on this, like do what you did with the Cornetto Trilogy, and everything will be fine. Because I feel that's what you need.
And not just also is I'm assuming he does editing because like his editing in his movies is always fantastic. So it's so punctual, slick, and like all the comedic timing. I'm assuming he must have a hand in it of some kind, because
I would think so.
Like, because obviously, just having done the review on Black Widow, I have a section on how shit the editing is in that film. It's like actually cringeworthy to see all the mistakes in editing, all the like frames where things don't match up because they clearly rushed it. I don't know if you knew, but they were doing special effects changes on it like a day before it released, like the streaming version.
This is mental for a film that sat on the shelf for like a year.
It's insane. Yeah, all you needed was someone who gives a fuck to watch it, like just somebody who cared.
Yeah.
But nobody did care, obviously.
I genuinely think it's because they hired untalented writers and an unproven director to do this movie.
Didn't they replaced the director as well, right?
Not that I know. I thought it was the same person all the way through.
I think
someone who's
did they offer it to somebody and she ended up refusing because they said she couldn't do her own action scenes or something like that?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know about that. I thought it was the same person from day one, but like I've heard like generally they bring in their own people to do the action sequences, so you've literally just got the dialogue bits to do.
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck. Like that's what I conclude when I watch a movie like this. I'm like, Edgar Wright cared about this. So did the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Obviously, every element is working really hard to make a story. Black Widow is one of the movies that felt like it was on a production line, like a series of machines put it together, and it just fell out of a factory, and it was like, there you go.
Yeah, well, it's like you feed the most rudimentary stuff into it. It's like, oh, we need a spy type storyline for Black Widow. Okay, and then the only possible options you've got at the end is your stereotypical Marvel finale, where it's like, well, we need to have a bunch of stuff exploding. We need to have a big CGI heavy finale. We need to have an enforcer that the main character has to fight. Yeah, okay, just plug all those elements in and off you go. It's just there's not an ounce of originality or anything to it. And yeah, I'm sure you've picked this up in your video, which I'm looking forward to watching tomorrow. But like the morality of this movie is fucked. It's on the same.
I'd say the morality of Phase 4 is fucked. Mm-hmm. It's all been really sad to watch. I do make a point about how if you look at what John Walker did and everyone hates him, and then compare him to Melina, what Melina did.
Yeah, I know who I'd rather put my weight behind.
Absolutely, it's not even a competition. It's just amazing to me that the average MCU audience will literally just listen to whatever the show or the movie tells them. Melina good, Walker bad. Okay, and you're like, yeah, okay, I guess, yeah. It's really disappointing.
It's awful writing, and really, just really shitty moral messaging. The idea that people would actually buy into this is like, what the fuck are you going to turn people into by trying to?
We know what else is the movie. You'd think thematically wants to make some points about free will as well, because it's all about mind control and breaking the conditioning and all this stuff. Yeah. They didn't do fuck all with that. They just didn't. It was just like, we freed them, yay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had, again, I think this comes down to hiring a writer who's completely untalented, but like, I guess they wanted to give someone unknown a chance. And so it's like you've got these great elements that you can do so much with if you have an ounce of like common sense and creativity. And it's like, we'll just take the easiest possible out for that. It's like, they're oppressed, so we have to save them. Okay, that's it. They're saved. Great. Well done. Move on.
Yeah.
That's all you got. It's like fucking awful. Yeah. I'll bring up the super chats here and see what we can do.
Let's do it.
Maka Jr. says, did you hear there's a sequel to Train to Busan coming out? Also showed my wife your villains video and the Thor part at the end blew her mind and my load. Well, I'd call that a good result. I thought, Train to Busan did have a sequel already. I think that was out ages ago. Was it not Peninsula or something like that?
I've not seen any of those. Do you recommend that? I forget. Train to Busan.
I do recommend Train to Busan. That's a really good zombie movie set on a train, funnily enough. But the fight scenes are great. The characters are fantastic. I think you get a real kick out of it, actually. Salad Cream Boy says, when I went to the actual World's End pub, London, the staff stopped me from pulling my own pint. I was disappointed when the bar didn't start descending. We've got a World's End in Edinburgh, actually, as well. It's not bad there. I remember I went in there with my mates one night, and for some reason, I don't know fucking why, but they brought out fucking chocolate cake for us when we're in the middle of drinking our pints. I was like, what the fuck's this? And the guy explained to us, like, we're having a clear out of stock, and like this was just needing used up. So like, do you want cake? I don't want fucking cake. I'm here to drink.
What if it's beer cake? You don't know.
Yeah, who knows? It was quite tasty anyway. We fucking ate it because we were drunk. Jester of Roanoke says, World's End feels like the last good comedy ever made. Clever writing and actual payoffs. From 2014 onward, all of it is Melissa McCarthy and the plague of wokeness. Melissa McCarthy is the death of comedy. Like, I don't know why she was ever funny.
What? You didn't like? Was it called Q Force? Was that what it was?
Thunder Force.
Thunder Force. Q Force is the other one, right? Queer Force or whatever.
Yeah, or Queef Force, I don't know. But yeah, Thunder Force just made me die a little bit inside. I was like, "Yep, this is where we're at. This is what we've become as a society. That this is our entertainment now."
Yeah, aren't they making a sequel to that? The one with Melissa McCarthy as well?
I don't know.
not to ruin everyone's day.
Fuck, man. Yeah, why was she ever considered funny? Because I don't know about you, like all she ever does in every movie is just yell at the camera. Like that seems to be all she has.
Also, she's fat, and that will mean she can't do some stuff, and that's really funny.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. RRTNZ says, Hail Drinker, Ace of Alcoholic Analysis, and Shemaim MauLer.
Hello.
What's this? Looking forward to your thoughts on this film and how it compares to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Have a drink on me. Cheers. Cheers, man. Yeah, I think I do come down ultimately on, I think Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead are better than this. But I still consider it a good movie. Like, they're all excellent.
A thorough recommendation, too. I wouldn't, like, in any way be like, oh, yeah, this one's a bit, I'd be like, no, seriously. If the other two didn't exist, I would just cite this as an awesome film that I love from Edgar Wright. The thing is, it always gets compared to its older brothers, naturally.
Yeah. And yeah, like a bad Cornetto movie is still better than like pretty much everything that comes out of Hollywood nowadays. Unhinged Entertainment says, I haven't seen this one, so I don't have a degenerative comment. Just take my weekly penance, you sexy, suave, sultry seducer.
Hey.
Thank you. Mitch Connor says, greetings, drinker. Love the channel. Have you ever seen the UK series Utopia that was on Channel 4? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Yeah, I have seen it, actually. I really liked it. It was very quirky, very different. Yeah, the soundtrack was fantastic. The mystery behind it was really good. And Arby, as the sort of killer that was hunting them, was just a fantastic character. Really well done, well written, and well performed. So yeah, I loved Utopia. I've never seen the US version, so I don't know what that's like. But the UK one was spot on. I liked it. Taker610 says, you're toxic, drinker. Some YouTube commie twat. Yeah. Yeah, apparently someone reckons that I'm toxic. I don't
you know what? I saw a couple people referencing this in the Discord, and I was like, why do people keep saying the same reference? Like, what happened? So let's say it. So you remember that cameo I had you do?
Yeah.
So that happens in the first 20 minutes, I think. And so someone left a comment pretty early on saying, by having critical drinkers show up, you've admitted that you've gone full MRA incel. Yeah. I was like, so the funny thing to me was just like, I guess he doesn't know how much I hang out with you.
Yeah. I think some asshole with like 100 subscribers made a video about me or whatever. I fucking know.
No.
A few people made me aware of it. Like, I think I watched like the first minute or two of it. And I was like, nah, this isn't worth my time.
I hope the man with a wife and kids doesn't make me an incel. Like that seems weird, but it's gonna happen. I got to look out,
Yeah. Yeah, fucking let them do it. I'm not going to waste my time on little nobodies like that. Ivan K gave me a super sticker, so thank you, my friend. Claudio Rugajan says, when will MauLer ever show his face?
Technically I used to Twitch stream and I had a camera for that. Thing is, these days I just find it so much more like chill that I can do whatever I want without being on camera. I know that sounds like is it that hard to just stand up straight or do things straight and everything? It's just like, well, I can literally do absolutely anything. It's just nice and easy and free.
I know what you mean. I had to put clothes on for this fucking stream.
That's the thing. You don't even have to worry about that. And I was thinking like maybe one day, but like I just haven't found the need. I know because like if I turn up on like a Friday Night Tights or Real BBC stuff, I know that part of the draw for their sort of style of content is having the faces, and I know that fans get frustrated if a lot of people without cameras show up because then it's like, oh man, I can't see reactions and stuff. But yeah, like I'm hoping that the voice alone is enough that I can provide enough sort of commentary and an emotional sort of presence that it's still engaging. But I understand why people would prefer a camera.
No, I very much agree. And like if you're more comfortable doing it that way, then that's right on, man. Like I started doing it on my streams just because it was like, well, rather than seeing two icons of just people kind of like talking, like at least it gives you people something to look at, you know.
Well, the thing for me, I'm so used to it because obviously I've been using Discord and TeamSpeak for like my whole life, which is just no cameras ever, and so it's just a comfortable position for me. I only did it on Twitch for a bit because I was like, that's what everyone does apparently, sort of thing. And then I was like, well, that's not the greatest reason to do it. I was like, I may as well do it because I want to do it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I expect to see you in a suit and a gas mask when you do show yourself.
If I go to any meeting, I think I would insult people if I didn't at least turn up in a gas mask. Yeah.
Yeah. AGS Gaming says this one is my favorite, like Hot Fuzz. I accept the best, but I like this the most of the three. So I think what he's saying here is that he recognizes Hot Fuzz as the best written, but he prefers this one.
I just again, like I really think it's Gary King's journey. It's super appealing for so many people. He might be, like I said, I'm not sure, but he might be my favorite character in the trilogy. He's and it's not because I think he's not a good person. I just think he's incredibly well written, and I believe that person exists. I knew someone who's very like it, so and you can't help but feel for the tragedy that is the life of it, because he's almost in a way represents a bit of the human spirit. In like we're so conditioned to just find the best enjoyment we can, and when we can't, no matter how hard we try, it leads you down some dark paths.
The thing I always took from this movie is that fundamentally it's about moving on and accepting that you have to move forward in life. You can't just be looking back and trying to relive your glory days. You have to find something else to fill that void, because ultimately, like, we all get older, and like you can't, when you're in your 40s, you can't be just like acting like you're still a teenager. At a certain point, it just becomes kind of pathetic and counterproductive. And, it's a reminder for all of us that you only get so many trips around the sun. You need to appreciate and enjoy the times of your life that you have, but also recognize that there's a time to move on to the next stage. And I think that's the thing I really took from this movie. And it's a good message ultimately.
I think I really enjoy it. I like thinking about what this movie brings up. And then you get the bonus of wonderful characters to just watch, interact, and writing that's pretty damn tight. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure you agree. This is why I love movies. This is what I want them to be. I don't want them to be shit.
Yeah. I mean, you can see, for everyone watching this, like how impassioned we get when we talk about films like this. And it's not just the Cornetto Trilogy, but anytime we're talking about a movie that really nailed it, writing-wise or whatever, it's such a pleasurable experience. It really, like, it reminds you, like you say, it reminds you why movies are so provocative, why they're so interesting, why they're so emotional, why they just like absolutely can nail that human experience. And it's a great thing when they get it right. It doesn't happen very often now.
Certainly not now. Yeah, it's getting a bit ridiculous at this point. Like, I can reliably watch a new MCU entry and just know that everything will be bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do they do this? Why do they hate us so?
As people pointed out, it's like, so wait, you like the Suicide Squad? I was like, yes. It's like, so the newest entry from both MCU and DCU, you like the one that is usually shit, at least from my perspective, and you hate the one that I've often been called an MCU shill. It's just like, I've hated almost everything they've put out in the last few years.
Yeah. But yeah, you can recognize when films are good, and you can recognize it for different reasons. Like, I think this is something I touched on when I did a review of The Tomorrow War. Dumb as fuck movie, loads of problems with the writing, but ultimately I came away from it happy and kind of entertained, because it was like, it didn't really have pretensions of being anything particularly smart or inventive or anything like that. It was just a fun popcorn movie. So it was fine.
We've talked before about it's like different kinds of bad. Some people, like I think I mentioned to you earlier, I can't remember if it was on the stream or not, but a lot of people are like, wait, you think Black Widow's worse than Captain Marvel? And I'm like, yes, but I'm not sure which one I hate more. Like, it's a complicated balance of how things make you feel because of like events or ideas that they have in them. Like, if this movie explicitly at the end was like, control is the correct way to go, and Gary King is the result of making your own choices. Like, most people can't be trusted. If that was the message, I'd be like, man, this film fucked it up at the end.
Yeah.
And someone would be like, well, it sounds like most of it was good though. And I'd be like, it pissed me off though. That ending really pissed me off. So
yeah. And when you reference like Black Widow and Captain Marvel, like it's the same thing of, does the movie just ruin itself? In which case, don't give a fuck. Or does it ruin things that you actually used to care about? In which case, that's when you get like more of an emotional response, because it's like there's more at stake. It causes more damage just beyond the movie itself. I think that's what you get from something like Black Widow.
Game of Thrones pretty much summed that up when they slaughtered all of these legacy characters, almost in one episode. It's certainly in one season, and that kind of damage is so significant that like even the average person was just like, so this was shit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for a lot of people, Captain Marvel might have just been that movie they saw and they don't even remember anymore. They're like, I don't know, she flew around and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Bilbonius Bag of Donuts says, hi, Drinker, and also awesome Black Widow video, MauLer.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
Michael Skrishik says, have you noticed the theme running through the movies about individualism versus collectivism? It's strongest in this one. You definitely get it in Hot Fuzz, where it's all about the greater good and stuff.
It's hard for a zombie movie to not be about that. In some ways. So yeah, definitely present through the trilogy.
More relevant now than it ever was. Neon Arrakis says, go back to sleep, Drinker. Lol. I will after this, don't worry. Pockets
that'll make more sense to you when you see my video.
Yeah. Okay. Pockets says, hello there, you handsome drunk. Have you ever seen the movie Bone Tomahawk? Just asking. And I haven't seen the whole movie all the way through. I've just seen the really gory bits because I was,
curious.
Morbid curiosity, I suppose. And I was like, fuck, this movie's pretty extreme, man. But apparently it's not, generally speaking, it's not a gratuitous movie. It's just got really extreme scenes in it.
Yes. I quite liked it, though. I actually found out about it because of Red Letter Media. They recommended it, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. I think in relation to its budget, it looks excellent. Like, it really comes across as a high-budget film. And then, of course... I'm very bad with actor names today. It's Kurt Russell, right?
It's Kurt Russell's in it.
Yeah. He's fantastic in it, but he's pretty much fantastic in everything, so it's kind of redundant. He's I
have come to respect Kurt Russell as an actor so much. Over the years. Like,
I rewatched Hateful Eight relatively recently. He is fucking great in that movie.
Yeah. He's just like he's got charisma. Like, I don't know how else you could define it. Like, that's just who he is. And he brings it to every role that he plays. And like, even cheesy, like, movies like Tango and Cash, like, he's just so fucking fun in it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's awesome. And he's made comments recently about how actors shouldn't really get involved in politics. And it's like, we should just concentrate on being actors and doing our job. And of course, that got him cancelled by like everyone who's an asshole.
That is an outright insane opinion to have these days. Whoever says something like that, no celebrity would say that. But
it just made me love him all the more. It's like, you absolutely get it. You're part of the old guard of Hollywood, clearly.
They were there to do the job. they weren't there to give you speeches.
Just want to make movies. Just want to entertain people. That's it. Like, it's not that much to ask. Stephen Otten says, hail, Drinker and MauLer. I haven't seen The World's End, so I'm going to bow out to avoid spoilers and catch the replay. Cheers. Yeah, well, go and watch the movie and then coming back and watch this
Hell
replay,
yeah.
You'll love it. Dread Red Baron says, Drinker, I just finished MauLer's Black Widow review. Good to know he let you wake up for this. Shit, I need to watch that review now. What did you do to me?
It's pretty much what you said is all intact. I tell you to go back to sleep.
Okay. Calark says, Drinker, thanks for the stream. When you do your Lord of the Rings happy hour, please invite MauLer. That would be epic. One day I'm going to do a happy hour.
Swear to God, if you do Lord of the Rings with just one guest, I think you should be drawn and quartered. That's unacceptable. You have to bring on a whole bunch of people.
I know. The thing is, I imagine everyone's going to want to do it because everyone pretty much loves those movies.
Yeah, it's like, how could you not invite Gary? But then how could you not invite Az? How could you not? And it's just like the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, like Doomcock would want to be involved. Like I imagine Rags would want to do it as well. Like
Rags would be very on board. Yeah, so would Fringy. That's the thing. Everyone loves Lord of the Rings. Like it's hard to find people who hate it.
How many people love Hobbit though? Not many.
No, yeah. See, if you said like, "Oh, I'll split you guys up. Some can come on for Lord of the Rings, some on the Hobbit," everyone would be like, "Yeah, okay, can I have Lord of the Rings?"
Yeah, be like when you're choosing football teams. It's like, oh fuck, I got picked for the Hobbit team.
Well, that's the thing. You got 3 movies too. I don't think you'd be able to get through more than 1 per stream. Like that's going to be a lot of content.
No, yeah, because they are big movies, especially if you get the extended cuts. Like Jesus. That's a lot of footage to go through.
Maybe, what if you do it for like I don't know, some kind of milestone or a anniversary of some kind? That could be good.
Yeah, I mean, Lord willing, I'll get to 1 million subscribers within a few months. But I think I'll just have a general sort of celebration stream if I do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I definitely want to do. If I do Lord of the Rings, I want to do it properly, and I want to get a good mix of people in. And yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's appropriate as well because this year it's going to be the 20th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring coming out, so it seems like definitely a good time to do it. Like it was December that it came out, so
absolutely. Yeah. And this is the thing: you'll have a team of people who just have nothing but respect for that film, and love for 2 decades.
Yeah, it's like Christ. It makes me feel old. I went and saw that at the cinema. Jesus,
I saw it when I was 7 in the cinema.
Ah, shut up,
dude. I still remember like realizing what I was seeing at the beginning of Two Towers with Gandalf fighting the Balrog in the theater. I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe I was watching it. It was so amazing.
Yeah, because it was, I'd read the books many times over the years, and the idea of seeing it properly realized like this was just, they couldn't have done a better job if they tried.
This is equally depressing and uplifting about the films, I guess. I don't know that we can ever get that again. It's phenomenally free to write the way that you need to and to make it the way that you needed to, and such a high budget. And 3 movies. Like, is that ever going to happen again? It's like we'd have to be so lucky to get that again.
Yeah, and Peter Jackson even back in the day was doing interviews saying like we're not trying to put our own personal politics into it or anything. It's just about being faithful to the source material. You know that would get you blacklisted in Hollywood now to be saying that. So there's that. I've got no confidence at all in the Lord of the Rings TV show on Amazon. I think that's going to be garbage.
No.
You
look at everything else and you're like, what hope does that show have? Like none.
Yeah, that's where we're at now. What's the next one? Trade Talk says, just finished Longman's bright and shining review for Black Widow. Great stuff. And thanks to you as well, Drinker. Cheers to you, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I praise the hell out of it. It's a great film.
Yeah. Christopher says, MauLer, you absolute ham sandwich. How am I supposed to watch your new video and this stream at the same time? Maybe DS2 is good after all. Hi, Drinky.
No. Well, you know what you do? You pause the video, and then you watch the stream, and then when the stream's done, you play the video. You got content for a whole day, probably.
The video is not going anywhere. It's going to be on YouTube for the rest of time.
Oh, so yeah.
You won't miss it. Ackles Floozy says, hello, MauLer and Drinker, you loquacious lush. Good God, when it rains, it pours. Everyone is streaming or dropping vids today. God, I'm so behind.
It's like a whole job, a list of keeping up with the YouTubers.
Yeah, I mean, I do it on a Thursday. That just seems to be the day that works well because it doesn't interfere with Friday Night Tights. It doesn't interfere with EFAP at the weekends. So Thursday became my day, I suppose.
It gets awkward when people run weekly shows at night time because it's like, oh shit, who else is running a show right now that I'm getting in the way of? I was like, oh.
Yeah. Your video for Black Widow, I was like, oh man, people, I think genuinely people would rather watch that than watch this. So it was going to be a tricky one, but
yeah, that's the thing. I wanted it out yesterday, but I don't know if I mentioned it to Gary, but I was proof watching the newest one. It was fine. Everything was working fine. I left 5 bad takes on like the layer below the audio. So randomly at one point, you just hear me say the same sentence 5 times in a row wrong. And I was just like, I can't upload it like that. Even if it's one tiny bit, it's like I gotta do it again, and then I ran out of time to do it yesterday.
Yeah, it's gutting when that happens because like it's probably going to be seen by like hundreds of thousands of people, and they're all going to notice the same thing. So
I think it was a quote from Miyamoto or something where he said, like a bad game is bad forever, a delayed game is good forever, sort of thing. So it's like, I'll delay the video so you don't have to deal with that shitty part of it forever. It's like it'll be better for you guys.
Yeah, I've had that once or twice where it's like, I didn't take the time to proof watch a video. I was like, it was fine when I was editing it. I've just rendered it and away I went. And then not knowing that there was like a bit where like the visuals just froze for a good 10 seconds for no reason. And then it just moved on to the next bit. And I still don't understand why that happened.
Technology can be such an asshole, seriously.
Yeah. And it's just like, by the time you realize it, it's like, well, it's been seen by loads of people. If I take the video down and then re-upload it, it's just going to piss people off. So I just have to leave it as it is. But yeah, it's annoying. Digital Demonic Davros says, my two favorite cynics. MauLer points out plot armor to a T. Drinker says, it'll be fine when we damn well know it's not. Brilliant, gentlemen. I genuinely, I'm usually not that forgiving towards plot problems. Yum Yum Tee 'em Up says, just came from based MauLer tearing MCU Phase 4 a new arsehole, but both Raggleton and Mubishi Plushie too. This latest one was by far your most savage. Stay based, long man. Also, hi Rags.
I had no mercy with this one. I basically said there's nothing of value in this fucking piece of shit. It's just like, I went after it pretty hardcore.
I think you're right. Is this a good time to mention the plushies since they've been brought up?
I mean, if you're all right with it, obviously we're it's because there's like a 21-day limit on these things, so we're just trying to get a bit of awareness for them in case anybody misses them. So the way it works is like Makeship is a sort of website where they team with like YouTubers or creators in general, and they just make a little plushie for them. We were asked all the way back in like 2019 and 20 to get plushies done. And I looked into this and I was just like, how does it get done? What do people even do? And it took me a while. I emailed around and eventually I was like, the Makeship people have come back to me. And I was like, well, let's get it sorted out. And then it went through like a load of phases of design and stuff. And they're finally done, finally releasing them. And you got the one of me is, I would say, the cutest you'll ever see me. It's like a little cuddly little toy. I've got a little happy eye. It's got a little gas mask, suit and tie, and of course spooky tentacles in order to be long, because those things can stretch right out, I'm sure. Not the plushie version, but they're representative, you see. And then I don't know if you've seen it, Drinker, but the Rags one is possibly the most adorable plushie in existence.
It looks really good. Yeah, I saw it on Twitter.
It's and yeah, if you buy them both, you get a little discount for the sort of EFAP Generation 1. Because we said as long as it got funded, and they're at 400% funded now, that we would make a Generation 2 at some point. So we'll probably have Fringy in that as well. Because obviously these were made before he was made host. So the next one will surely... And we'll probably ask the fans what they're looking for, really. But yeah, if you're interested...
Drinker plushie!
Yeah, absolutely. You should set it up, dude. I would totally buy a Drinker plushie, little cuddly version of you with a bottle of alcohol. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. Hopefully they are.
Yeah.
Great. So if you want a little plushie version of myself and Rags, you can grab them with if you search for us on Makeship, or if have you got do you want to drop a link in chat if possible, or
yeah, let's see if I can bring this up. So yeah, you sent it to me earlier, so
they are fun little guys. But of course, if you were thinking like, I wouldn't mind supporting the channel but not through all the sort of ways that, because like YouTube gets a lot of cuts and stuff. I know a lot of people prefer different sites. This is obviously just another way to do it in a sense. They're pretty damn awesome, I think. I'm very happy with how they turned out. So if people are interested, you can have a look-see. And
here we go. I will put those links into the re-upload as well. I'll put them in the description so you can get them that way as well. But they're in chat now, so click on them and use them. But yeah, they look good actually.
I think so. They're very cute.
MJO Skyverse says, greetings, Drinker and Longman. There's so much I thoroughly enjoyed in this film, least favourite out of the trilogy, but still bloody fantastic. Yeah, couldn't argue with you on that one.
Yeah.
Tarmanel says, speaking of British humour, have you seen The Dark Star? This film comes to me almost as a pilot for Perfect Series Red Dwarf. I haven't seen that, actually. No,
I've not seen it, no.
Nicholas Lundgren says, hi, Drinker. You're my favourite movie critic. Have you any plans on doing the Evil Dead movies in the future? Would love to watch what you think of them and your thoughts on the remake. We talked about doing Army of Darkness, hadn't we?
You did a video for that, right? Or did you not?
No, I've not done that.
Oh.
I did one on Mask of Zorro.
Ah, right, yeah. Yeah, so obviously, I think people know about this vaguely, but Drinker is part of a big sort of EFAP movie watch group. We're trying to get to 12 films, and then we'll probably start figuring out how that's going to release. We're at something like 8, I think, or coming up to that. Army of Darkness is probably the next one. It's just been interrupted a bit because I've been super busy with this video and the anniversary stream. But once like another week passes, we'll probably try and organize for Army of Darkness and a few others.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to rewatching that, actually.
Yeah.
Egomania27 says, hey, Drinker, thank you for your Drinker Recommend series. So far, I've enjoyed every one that I watched. Well, that makes me feel good, actually. I've not steered anyone wrong, hopefully. Imperator SV says, happy hour with MauLer about the world's end. This must be my birthday. Oh, wait, it is. Next round is on me. Keep it up, Drinker. Well, happy birthday to you, Imperator.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Leon K says, Hot Fuzz is my favorite, but I also think I also drink and have regrets. Cheers, Drinker and Longman. My two favorite channels. Does that make me a toxic male? Yes, it absolutely does.
Easily, yeah.
You should be ashamed. Irish John says, nice, the trilogy is now complete. Yeah, it is. We brought it to an end.
We did. We'll have to figure out what we're going after next, I guess.
I know, but yeah, what a beautiful, epic trilogy it's been. I've loved it. Spencer Stabio says, first post, old familiar, famous cock handler, 3 companions, trusty server, 2-headed dog, the mermaid, the bee's hive, the king's head, the hole in the wall, and the world's end. There we go.
That's the lot.
All of them. Stikio1990 says, finally, this film is great. It's easy to say it's the weakest because it's hard to top Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz, and this has 2 past Bond actors as villains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dalton and Brosnan, both doing awesome jobs. Farewell Thunderchild says, Longman bought your plushie. May I ask if it is stain resistant, machine washable, and may I ask what the stuffing is made of? It's for science.
I'm assuming they've got product information on the actual site. I think it says, I can read this out if it's useful to people. So the plush is made with ultra soft fleece exterior that's the interior stuffed with fluffy polypropylene cotton filling to keep it in shape for years to come. The plush is tagged to show exactly how many were created. Yeah, imagine if you want to find out more about how they made and what they made with, there's going to be material polypropylene cotton and plush fabric ultra soft fleece. I don't know if it says care instructions: hand wash, warm or cool only. Do not machine wash or dry clean. There you go.
There we are. What's the next one? Xander Dawson says, hail, Drinker and the Longman. Glad to see the Cornetto Trilogy happy hour is complete. MauLer, excellent job on the Black Widow video. Spent my workout listening to you tear it apart. Keep up the great content.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was a bit worried with this one. Even though Jay's made one longer than this, I realized like 4 hours and 20 minutes that's quite a long time. I'm really pushing it at this point.
I had no idea it was going to be this long. Like, I knew you were making it, and considering how quickly you got it out after the movie was released, I thought it would be an hour and a half, something like that. So 4 hours, damn, man.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been possible with me alone. Meme Repository and Fringy both helped me out massively with the editing because that was a nightmare.
Yeah. It's always the fun part of video making, isn't it? Just getting all that footage and splicing it together.
Man, when you spend like 10 hours and it's like, how much have I done? It's like you've made 10 minutes of video. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Shit. What 2 says, be right back, gents. Well, cool. I hope you make it back. Korea Smith says, never seen this movie, but love videos. Drinker, what's up, MauLer?
Hey, how you doing?
The Craig Lee Lawrence experience says, give me your best Simon Pegg impersonations.
How do you impersonate Simon Pegg? He's so different in all of his different movies. He's just got a normal English accent, right? Normally.
Yeah, it's just a kind of North London sort of accent, I guess.
I don't know. There's not much to impersonate. You'd sound pretty normal.
Yeah, I don't think I can really do him justice, really. Michael Hansen says, check out God's Army, The Prophecy with Christopher Walken, a 90s movie. It's what Big Trouble in Little China is to the 80s. Wow, damn, that's a high benchmark indeed when I'm involved. So God's Army, The Prophecy. Yeah. Alpha Omega says, I would cut my hand off to hear your thoughts on First Man and how that movie, which is great, was allowed in today's political climate. Love your work, man. Keep up on drinking. So yeah, First Man is like it's
an astronaut movie, right?
Yes, it is. It's about Neil Armstrong. And I'm trying to remember who's in it. Fuck, it's the guy who was in Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, Ryan Gosling?
Yes, he plays Neil Armstrong, I believe.
I can't remember if I've seen that. It's familiar to me, but I don't remember a lot about it. I can't remember.
I've not seen it. But yeah, I think it's if I'm not mistaken, it's about a lot of the personal struggles that he had, like after the moon landing and stuff, like, you know, just with dealing with the fame and all the stuff that came with it. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to watch, actually.
Wasn't that the movie where they weren't allowed to show the American flag on the moon or something? Wasn't there a controversy about that? Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
Yeah, can't have people feeling too patriotic and positive. We've got to hammer that down.
I'm stuck all the way back but it was like, I know that the flag it's lost its colors now, right, or something on the moon because of the sun and stuff.
Well, it got knocked over by the blast of the takeoff as well, so it's not standing upright anymore. But yeah,
but I mean, they did put it there, and it did look like an American flag because it was an American flag. But,
yeah, and you should be proud of that. Like, that's quite an achievement. Yeah. No one else has managed it. Gomer Kyle 79 says, "Hail Drinker and MauLer, been watching y'all a while. Glad to see you've blown up in popularity. Thank you for helping me rediscover these movies. World's End, my favorite." Nice, thanks, man.
Yeah, I do love these streams a lot. Like, it's really fun to just delve back into the classics, the fun ones. I say classic. This movie came out in 2013. It's classic to me. Like, just, it doesn't. I don't even associate classic with time. It's just a movie that's fucking great.
Yeah, yeah. And that's all you need sometimes. It's just like having a drink and talking about a good movie. Great.
Yeah.
Token White Guy says, I enjoyed this movie. Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg are a great team. Seems like they have a ton of fun doing what they love. Yeah, that's really what it feels like. It just feels like a bunch of mates that have got together and made a film.
Absolutely, yeah. They're all on great terms, and I think they all have input on the script writing as well.
Yeah. And it's just... Like, I remember watching the DVD commentary for Shaun of the Dead, and like, it just really came to the fore in that. Like, they were just having a laugh with each other, like, just really easy camaraderie and good banter between them all. Rack says MauLer's Black Widow video is the video he ever made. I assume he meant to say the best video he ever made.
Maybe he meant worst. Who knows? I guess you guys like to find out if you really want to know. Like I said, it's a long boy, but I don't think I missed any topic to do with Black Widow. I think I went over most of them.
I think in 4 hours, you can cover every aspect of the film. Cannon Falderall says, Hail Drinker and Longman bought the trilogy on Blu-ray thanks to your happy hours. Looking forward to rewatching with your commentary. Cheers. Nice.
Excellent. Awesome, yeah.
Joshua Levesque says, what do you think of the new Eternals trailer? Bleh.
It's funny, Fringy said, are you going to watch it? The trailer? I was like, can you just tell me what happens? I don't care. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah. I saw a news article, I think it was that one that you'd referenced on Twitter as well. It's like, there's an explanation for why they didn't interfere with the events of Endgame. It's like, I don't even fucking care. Maybe it's a great explanation. Who gives a shit?
They're not going to have a good explanation because it's constant retconning. That's all they've done in Phase 4 is retcon the fuck out of everything. And it's just, it's not the story I was invested in anymore. It's a different story. It's like, go fuck off and write your own story then.
Yeah. They didn't interfere because Kang didn't want them to.
God,
There we go.
fucking dude, I quote tweeted somebody on Twitter recently who said, like, in fairness, Loki has provided an answer for any holes you can find in the MCU. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, that's the laziest possible outlet.
You can just do anything you want now because Kang wanted it that way.
Yeah.
Fuck Loki as a show. I had people being like, "Wow, you really, really mean to Loki in the beginning of your video." I was like, "Yeah, I wonder why." Like, it fucking ruined everything.
Yep. CBR 1000s gave me a super chat for $5, so thanks, man. RRTNZ says, great stream, boyos. Drinker, why not support female empowerment and review Long Kiss Goodnight, Sam Jackson's favorite character he's played, or maybe the assassin, Bridget Fonda from 1993. Cheers, mate. Yeah, I like Long Kiss Goodnight. It's a good film. It's criminally underrated and underappreciated now. But yeah, I thought Gina Davis was great in it, and Samuel Jackson was great in it as well. So yeah, good film. CPT Rennet says, my favorite line of the movie is when Gary says that he always gets the bars, the trusty servant and the good companions mixed up. Yeah. Yeah, when he's going through the list of pubs that they've got to go to, and he always gets those two mixed up. It's just a really little, the kind of human touch that you get.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the Cornetto films. A lot of mishaps in when they speak and stuff. It just makes them feel nice and real.
Yeah. Thomas Carroll says, Drinker, have you read the Charlie Parker series by John Connolly? Stephen King horror meets crime thriller. Also, congrats, MauLer, on making EFAP 150.
Oh, we're not there yet. Making it to it, I guess, yeah.
It will get made. But yeah, yes. I have not read Charlie Parker, I'm afraid, so I don't know. Mr. Wise Guy says, in The Mermaid, the song they're playing is Step Back in Time, which is not only symbolic, but came out in 1990, the same year the aliens arrived. Yeah, very appropriate. Yeah. Travis Newton, Drinker, just discovered your channel and binging while working. Thoughts on the movie Hot Rod? One of my favorites. Would love to review a stream on it. Yeah, I love Hot Rod. I like Andy Samberg generally as a comedian, and Hot Rod was just brilliant. I don't know if you've seen it, MauLer.
One of those movies where I started to hurt because I'd been smiling so much.
Yeah. I just love
so many jokes.
The fist fight with his dad at the end. Holy shit! Roddy just rocked him with a brick.
All the stunts going wrong. All of the there's some great dialogue in that as well. Remember when they're all running away from the riot and Danny McBride's just holding a TV.
Yeah, and he's going into this big spiel about, oh man, when things go wrong like that, you've just got to get out of there and hope you're going to be okay. He's got this big TV on his shoulder. I love when I think it's Isla Fisher, she does the kung fu move on him that makes him shit himself. Yeah. And he's just trying to pretend everything's okay.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It didn't have an effect on me. I need to leave now. It's a great movie. I'd definitely review that.
You do Step Brothers as well. Have you seen that?
Yes, yeah, with Will Ferrell and was it John C. McGinley? No, Riley.
Yeah, that movie's nuts as well. It's just the absolutely let loose in terms of. I feel like that's probably a movie that's not allowed these days. I'd have to rewatch it. I'm not sure, but I think they're nice and crude.
I think any movie that made you laugh, you can assume they wouldn't let it happen now.
Like, enough of that.
Yeah, don't want you enjoying yourself too much. Thomas Chipperfield says, Hail Drinker, I'm a lion trainer and would love to live chat The Ghost in the Darkness with you. Holy shit, man. Also, MauLer, insult me like I'm Ryan Johnson. Go.
I would never. You know what? I have respect for everybody who writes, and I hope that they're successful. Sometimes they fail. Everyone, including Ryan Johnson. Yeah. Please, never actually get to do the Star Wars trilogy. Which, by the way, is that like how long has it been since he said he had that? It's just it's still not happened. So
it's just a meme now. Everyone's hitting him up on Twitter, like, "Hey Ryan, how's that trilogy coming along?"
Isn't Taika Waititi's Star Wars? He's like, the script is done or whatever, and they're gonna be filming soon. And I was like, what the fuck? Where's Ryan's? Huh? What's going on?
Yeah, well, Ryan's embedded in the whole Knives Out thing, because has he not got a $200 million deal to do 2 more movies?
Which I seriously, man, because obviously I watched it with you. Knives Out, for a detective mystery sort of film, was pathetically written.
Yeah.
But people loved it, so he's getting more.
What, you mean the idea of someone who spontaneously vomits whenever they lie isn't believable to you?
People liked that. People reference it as really clever. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's how far the bar has fallen. But yeah, Ghost in the Darkness is a good movie. I like that one. Miner69er says, my two favorite YouTubers, which of my film collection will be on the next happy hour? I swear you have hidden camera in my house looking at my VHS, DVD, Blu-ray collection. P.S. Hi Rags.
Well, a lot of the films we've covered, I just don't hear many people hating them. It's like these are films that a lot of people love. Obviously, hence why we were talking about World's End has a different kind of reputation. Because what have we done in total? We've done Terminator 1 and 2, which I don't know anyone who hates them. Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, again, those are beloved from what I know. I forget, have we done any others other than World's End?
No, I think we did the Cornetto Trilogy and the Terminator ones, and that was pretty much it on Happy Hour. We did Invisible Man as well. That was more of an ensemble thing.
Yeah, that was... I don't know if I'd count that. We didn't talk about it that much, and it wasn't that great. Like, Invisible Man was just... It was fine.
Yeah, honestly, I was running out of things to say about that by the end. I was like,
I think we all were. But whatever we choose next, you and I, is probably going to be something people tend to like, because we're gunning for like the all-time favorites of ours, which, you know, really good films will often be liked by a lot of people. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. I would definitely do Back to the Future as another trilogy of things that we could cover. But do you
ever wonder, like, you got to be careful because you get to spend it once at the movie, and so you got to make sure you get it?
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I've taken my time on things like Lord of the Rings. It's like I want to devote a lot of time to it and get the right people involved and just like do it justice, because I wouldn't want to just, you know, pick one random person that I haven't streamed with before and like, yeah, we'll cover it, and then, you know, we're not going to really.
Oh, someone suggested Jurassic Park. I'd be totally willing to do the whole series with you if you wanted to. We could do one, The Lost World, third one, and then the one, and you know what? Dominion is going to be out in like a year's time or whatever, right?
Yeah. They're going to keep churning them out.
It's going to be great. They're all good. I love the idea that there's only going to be the first one that we do, that I'll be gushing over it, that the rest of them I'm going to be depressed, because I'm one of the people that doesn't like Lost World either.
No, Lost World was bleh. It just it missed all the interesting ideas that the first movie dealt with. I just gave it up in favor of like spectacle and action scenes and stuff, and it's just that you really didn't need to do anything beyond the first movie. If it came to interest in storytelling, that's really all you needed.
Someone in chat said, has MauLer even seen Jurassic Park? It's older than him. So the thing about me is, a lot of people think I'm a lot older than I actually am, because my taste in film is that more so of like a 40-plus-year-old, I would say, and that's because my dad put me through all of his favorite movies. And so, like, my taste has just been reflected off of that. And my interest sort of on YouTube was to try and figure out what is it that made those films great, and these newer ones suck ass. And it's like, and my conclusion was essentially like adhering to cause and effect, and then having a level of creativity that is missing now. It's hardcore fucking missing at this point.
It's also interesting, you know, you're allowed to watch movies outside of your own lifespan. You know, you can watch films that were made before you were born. It's okay. There's no rule that says you can't, so it's fine.
Have you seen Citizen Kane or 12 Angry Men?
Yeah, well, I haven't seen 12 Angry Men, actually, but
we should do one for that. We should bring Fringy on for it. He made a video on it recently.
Yeah, I mean, people have been going on at me for a while, actually, on these streams. Like, you need to review 12 Angry Men, and never got around to seeing it. So
it's easily one of my favorites. Fantastic character writing in that film.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. So, that could be another possibility. Yeah. David Davis here says, holy cow, a Faulty Towers / Fatty Owls reference. My father watched that show when I was a kid. It's been 25 years since then. He loved that show. Yeah. Faulty Towers was fantastic.
Or as one of the episodes opens up, Flowery Twats, I think it is.
Yeah. Vidar says, tier lists are dumb fun. Edgar Wright tier list in the future. Tier list? I'm not sure what you mean.
A tier list for what, sorry?
I don't know. It says tier lists are dumb fun. Edgar Wright tier list in the future.
So I mean, assuming you know, tier list just means you tier stuff like best to worst sort of thing.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
And so Edgar
Sure.
Wright, I guess that'll be Cornetto Trilogy. He made like a short film at one point, and then Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, the Soho film he's recently done. I guess you could rank all of them if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh Christ, it would take forever to try and rank all that stuff. I prefer to just take things as they come rather
Well,
than
that's the thing.
compare them to
I
other
want to see
things.
that the new film he's makes. It's apparently like a horror film, right? So it should be some fun to see what he can do.
Yeah. Christ, what's it called again?
Is it Last Night in Soho or Late Night in Soho?
Yeah, because it's got Anya Taylor-Joy in it, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, because I was over in Edinburgh like a couple of nights ago. I was watching some shitty art house film called Censor. And yeah, that was one of the horror films that was like in the trailers beforehand. And I was like, yeah, I was intrigued by it. Like there didn't seem to be any dialogue, which was kind of weird. But yeah, I've got enough faith in Edgar Wright to think it's possibly worth my time.
Yeah, I'll definitely be giving it a chance. I'm not sure when it's out. Someone in chat's mentioning Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. No.
Or you know what? I'm gonna hit you with a curse of you're not allowed to see that without me. All right, we'll watch that together.
Okay, sounds good then.
Just remember that, right? Because I really do love that film, and I'm not going to spoil anything about it.
We'll do a watch together or something.
It's a film that fits in with these kind of. You could call it a comedy drama that's very subversive and cleverly written.
Okay.
Not quite as good as these three, but I do enjoy quite a bit.
CJ Broskin says, here's one on me, Drinker, and a question from MauLer. When it comes to film analysis of something you're passionate about, how do you tell whether a scene is really bad or just personal bias?
So, I don't know. Some of these can be hard, but a lot of them are simple in terms of like, why do I like basically everything Arnold Schwarzenegger's in, even if the films are terrible? It's like, because I really like him. And I've always liked his acting, despite it being like incredibly hilarious. That's oftentimes why. And so if I'm going to review something he's in, I'll be like, right, so I need to really be specific about what I'm praising. And if it's literally just the fact that he's saying stuff and I like him, that's just personal bias, got nothing to do with what actually is happening. And I find that, this happens a lot. It's hard to do. Nobody's like a guru at this to try and figure out exactly when. So you watch a scene, you just feel bad or you feel good. And then you try and distill the feeling into, was it something that was bothering me that was happening in there that's fucking dumb or contradictory to what they've told me has happened before? Or maybe I don't like Ryan Reynolds. Like that could be it. I just don't like him. Or I don't like the soundtrack, or because it's a particular song that annoys me, or I don't like the way they've color graded it. I don't like how slow it feels. These are all things where I'm just like, if you can't get any more than that, we try and leave it at the door of like, that's totally your preference. But if you say something like, Natasha has this whole family that she's ignored for her entire life when her whole thing is desperation for like family, that's incongruent. And if someone goes, that's your preference, I'm like, no, you've told me a character is X and Y, or X and not X. So what is it? And you can't have both. And like that's kind of how I try to do it. It's hard to explain entirely because a couple of asked about Black Widow. It's like, how did you spot so many flaws in it? Because a lot of people have come away saying like, Jesus Christ, you took like that long to get through all of them. I didn't even see half of these. And it's just like, when you watch it slower, I guess, scene by scene, and then you think about why everyone's there and what they're doing, it's really easy to pull stuff out. That's the advice I always give to people is like, look at the characters. They're all little agents moving on like a chessboard. They all have desires. They have to do everything in line with that because that's literally what we do. It's how humans work.
I think as well, like there is something to be said for like, say there is a particular actor that just pisses you off. It's sometimes interesting to like explain why.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something I've done once or twice in my videos where it's like, well, this person pisses me off because they play the same fucking character in every movie they're in or whatever it might be. And it's like, again, it's something you can call out because it's like, well, it's a flaw in their approach to acting and doing movies where it's like they just become lazy and do the same thing over and over again rather than branching out. And I think that's, again, a valid criticism that you can bring forward. It kind of encourages me to like just look at why I feel a certain way about certain people.
Sometimes when reviews get to the point where they explain like, so this film isn't that great, but this scene or this event, it means a lot to me because in my life, this thing happened and and they explain in detail like why this is so resonant, this particular thing. And like you can listen to reviews that do that and you could be taken away with just like understanding this person's point of view and what it meant to them. And I think a lot of people associate with me like, you never do anything subjective, huh? Mr. Hates emotions. Like, I do it all the time. I just try and find the separation so that it's clear what I'm doing at the time. My favorite content of all time resonates with me on a personal level. As I was saying about World's End, if someone said World's End's the best one because I feel like Gary King, I'd be like, I completely understand what you're saying. However, like, for the next guy who says I don't feel like Gary King at all, I just want to talk about how things line up and how well they're built and stuff. It's just like, hopefully we can come to an understanding of like Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. They're stronger scripts. However, it is important to talk about how effective these characters are for a person. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. No, 100% agree, and I think it's interesting to touch upon that stuff because it gives people that perspective. Nelson,
sorry, just one last thing. So a friend of mine, he was Weekend Warrior, for anyone wondering, he was like, "Why did you make this video on Black Widow? Like, isn't the MCU dead for you?" And I was like, it's kind of the same with a lot of stuff I've done. I really cared about her. I actually quite liked her in the MCU a lot, and so this film really pissed me off. And that's an incredibly subjective experience to generate my review, and that's literally how they all work. They all come from my heart being pissed off or in love. It's just, obviously.
I think, when I look at films in terms of how much damage do they do. So if it's just some standalone movie that's got no relation to anything else and it's just shit, well, okay, I've got no investment in it before I watched it, so I don't care if it's good or bad. So I can just be a laid back kind of review of like, well, this didn't work, that didn't work, and overall it's a bad movie. If, on the other hand, it's something that fucks with something that I actually care about, TLJ, like destroying Luke Skywalker or whatever, like something that actually meant something to me, that's when it's going to provoke my ire, because it's like you're not just producing a shit movie in and of itself, you're ruining other things outside of this movie. And that's when it pisses me off. Like, seeing good things ruined by bad content is a big kind of bugbear for me and probably a lot of other people.
It only makes you more furious when you find out like extra pieces in the meta. So I don't know if you know this, but Natasha just escapes General Ross at the end of the film. It just cuts and she was fine. She just didn't talk too much. Yeah. So the director was asked what happened. That didn't make sense. And she said, so we cut there because we didn't want another fight scene, right? So we just, she got out so you use your imagination. She used her ingenuity to get out. And then when pressed for the answer, she went, I don't know how she got out.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fucking pathetic. Like,
that's the level of thought that went into this movie. It's like, we need to make it tell its story, but also fit into this like convoluted narrative that it has to fit into to work within the MCU. And this is the best we can come up with. Just don't think about it too much.
Yeah. It's just so disappointing to know that the people behind this work don't give a fuck. They're there for the paycheck and because they have the correct, approach.
Yeah. And they tick the correct boxes, which we all know. Ian So Forth here says, if this world makes me pay to watch rubbish like Black Widow, I'm certainly going to pay to watch Drinker and MauLer. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks.
Nelson the Gentleman says, Voxus wants to stream with you. It'd be a blast. I've heard a few people say that, actually. I'll need to get in touch with them. Rob H says, Hail Drinker, the once and future king. Aurora Uplinks, I wanted to say, hi, Critical Drinker and MauLer. Have you considered doing a happy hour or let's watch commentaries on TLJ or Rise of Skywalker? It could be much fun. I genuinely I don't know about you, man, but I don't want to like really go near those films again. I feel like I'm tapped out with them. I've said and done everything I can do.
I could see the amusement in a big call. Like, I'm talking like 10 people, and then we just talk, and the movie's in the background, and we randomly just react to some of the stuff that's on the screen, just because that could be fun. But yeah, fucking hell, dude. Like, TLJ, that's a dead era. Everyone killed it. We all put a knife in that heart each. Like, that thing is dead.
It was satisfying to do, but yeah, like, I'm at that point where I just don't give a fuck about it anymore, and I want to move beyond all of that. Because otherwise you just end up obsessing over it forever, and it's just not going to help you.
Yeah, the way it lives on for me is just as I thought it would. It's a bad example. It's the thing we bring up as like, oh, you assassinated your character like TLJ, and like they did it like Luke, where it's the worst kind. And that's honestly what its legacy should be. It's a big warning, of the way you should not do this.
Yeah, like I'll show that video of Luke drinking the green milk and just
Yeah, that's the one.
there you go.
That's how it lives on in my videos. It just comes up whenever I think something stupid and ridiculous has happened. It's accentuated by TLJ because that's one of the quintessential examples.
J Fraser 360 says, "Hail Drinker and MauLer, have either of you done a pub crawl in real life? If you were to plan a pub crawl with your internet friends, who would you bring?" Yeah, I've done a few in my time. Like, they've never been planned. Like, they've always just been ad hoc. Fucking, where do we go next? We don't have like a golden mile or anything that I know of.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was to do one in real life, I would definitely bring Az along with me.
Yeah.
Because that guy would be the Andy of the group for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know, have you done one?
To a degree, I find that like I'd like to do it with all of you because like you don't know, it's like it's a different environment and it would just be really fun to try out, sort of thing. So everyone having a drink and just having a chat in a bar or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I've never done a pub crawl as the same they did it in this film. Typically, my nights when I was doing that more often was we'd go to between like 1 to 3 bars or pubs. Like that was about it. So. And they would it was whenever things got quietened down and everyone had their drinks, so do you want to go to a different place? Just see what's going on, just standard sort of thing. But to be honest with you, it would be cool if this place like existed and everyone was doing that as a sort of relation to the film. They just go one bar at a time and they see how far they can get, sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Edinburgh, right, you've got the Royal Mile that goes down from the castle down through the middle of the city, right? So that's like just one road, one street that goes in a straight line away from it. And so there must be like, easily 20 pubs on that road. Mm-hmm. You could probably you can make your own golden mile right there. But yeah.
Maybe share the pints at that point so you can get through them.
Yeah, 12 pints is a lot for one night, man. It's
yeah.
just, like I say, like I get to a certain point in a night with pints and I'm just like, I don't want to drink any more beer because I'm just going to be pissing all night. And so that's when I move on to shorts. So yeah, probably like 6 pints. And then I'll move on to like whiskeys and stuff after that. That's probably like the standard night out for me. So yeah, 12 is quite a lot to drink. Graham Gallagher says, Drinker, 2 recommendations. You mentioned Tim Roth. Have you seen 4 Rooms? 1 movie, 4 directors, and Tim Roth is a bellhop. All-star cast. Lastly, La Trappe Triple. Dutch Trappist Ale, 8%. Damn, that's some good ale right there. Yeah, that reminds me of Skull Splitter, which I had. That was like 10% or something, so that's like in wine territory. But yeah, I've not seen the 4 Rooms, I'm afraid, so I don't know. I'd like Tim Roth as an actor, though.
Yeah, I like it whenever he pops up.
Aurora Uplinks, would the next Cornetto film be in space? Space Co. Why not? Might as well.
I imagine if they were ever considering making a 4th Cornetto film, that they would instead try and separate it out, and so it could be its own thing. Because at this point, they feel like the era's gone. You know what I mean? Like they sit comfortably in their own time now.
I think a time travel thing could work for them, like Back to the Future, but in like Britain, with a really British spin on it. I think that could be something they can do.
This is the thing, man. I didn't really want them to stop because I think they make excellent work, but at the same time, I ain't forcing any artist to do anything. Like, you guys do whatever you want.
Yeah. Monkey Drawers says, Hail Drinker and MauLer, do you get the vibe Edgar Wright could make a proper classic kung fu movie? The choreography is fantastic in this, so maybe.
The thing for me is that he does so well with pretty much everything I'm looking for in movies that I would give him anything, any genre. I feel like he would care about it so much that he would try and get it right. He would look at what's been done before and work hard, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'd give him a chance on anything.
Roger P says, speaking of movies that couldn't be remade, if Blazing Saddles were remade in today's Hollyweird, how much longer than the intro and credits would it be? Yeah, nothing. No way could Blazing Saddles be remade today. I'm just catching up on the super chats here. Where is it? Come on, where are you? Oh yeah, here we go. So Andrew Clark says, thoughts on Thanos saying that T'Challa talked him out of genociding the universe. It's around 9 minutes of episode 2 of What If. So I haven't seen the What Ifs yet, so I don't know much about them.
So the idea, I guess, is T'Challa is Star-Lord instead of Quill, sorry. Like that's just what if he ended up being Star-Lord sort of shit. I haven't seen these episodes, but I've seen the clip where like Thanos explaining like, oh man, you know, I really did want to take, it's Josh Brolin's voice as well, which makes it that much worse. He's talking about how like he wants to take over the world and stuff, but the thing is, he was convinced out of it by T'Challa, and then T'Challa says, yes, sometimes the best weapon in your arsenal is a good argument. And like I saw it live with Az and Nerdrotic on I think it was his birthday stream, and I like died inside listening to that. That was so fucking cringeworthy. How do you make it so that in Endgame, when he finds out people are going to try and stop him, he will reduce the entire universe down to a cinder? However, T'Challa made a good argument. You know, he made a good argument
because it's T'Challa. He's the bestest ever.
Yeah, apparently he spends the whole episode being loved by everybody, and he solves all of the problems. It's like, oh man.
I think I'm getting a little vibe of where this What If series is going to go.
Yeah,
and what exactly it's going to be. And yeah, I've got no interest in watching it in that case.
And it's really unfortunate because it's being praised to hell and back, that episode. It's the last performance that Chadwick Boseman has given us, obviously, before he had died. And so there's this really awkward realm of like, we can't talk about it that much because people get very upset when you criticize something like that. It's like, all right, see you for the next episode, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, see, that's the problem, isn't it? It's like we're not criticizing Chadwick, we're criticizing the writing of it.
Yeah, and you know, in a way, that's where the subjective sort of side of criticism can really get in the way. If for example, the last film you watched with like a loved one before they had died was like particularly shit, but you enjoyed it with them, and so you just don't want to fucking listen to people criticizing it, and it can really affect and like get in the way and stuff. So it's like you almost have to recuse because it's going to be really awkward when you're trying to explain how you want people to stop talking negatively about it because it's upsetting you. And that can be like, because this is the thing. If I had a friend who felt that way about something, I'd just be like, yeah, I'll avoid talking about it in front of you. It's fine because obviously it means a lot to you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with this. If you remember, people were really upset that Chadwick Boseman didn't get the Oscar where Anthony Hopkins did for The Father, and like, I've seen The Father, and I was just like, that man, he earned that Oscar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's like, as much as like we're all, you know, we're sympathetic to what happened to him, and it's a tragedy that he died so young and stuff. You can't just start handing out Oscars just because you feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's just such a bad way of thinking about it. Like, give him a lifetime achievement Oscar or something like that. Fine,
Yeah.
But like recognize a man who's just done an incredible performance in the movie, and that's all it should be. Captain Lol 19 says Cornetto Trilogy or the Lord of the Rings Trilogy. Choose.
So, gun to my head, it's Lord of the Rings straight away, but I would want to acknowledge they're both phenomenal. Like, I don't want to, like, Cornetto Trilogy means a lot to me, but it's Lord of the Rings, man. Like, that's a pretty tough boy to beat.
I think it's the fact that the Lord of the Rings are a unified narrative. You know,
Yeah.
Obviously the Cornetto Trilogy is a series of movies that don't really have anything that linked them together, apart from the fact that it's the same actors and stuff. But like Lord of the Rings combines together to become greater than the sum of its parts, I think. So yeah, I would put that ahead of it.
And I do have to say, like, Lord of the Rings' scale is enormous. Like, the amount they were juggling is incredible. The Cornetto Trilogy is still really good, but we are dealing with a lot of people in the average sort of town drinking and getting some different things done. Lord of the Rings is this entire world that has huge wars in it. It's just like, it's really tough to pull off what they did, and I've always just been thoroughly impressed by Lord of the Rings, so it's hard to choose Cornetto Trilogy over it, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Random Aussie 89 says, Drinker, in exchange for a slab and a pack of Winnie Blues, can you do a Drinker recommends for Father Ted? Drink feck, arse girls! MauLer, didn't realize how broken Outlast was until your breakdown.
Oh yeah, that was like the most controversial video I'd made at that point back in the day. I loved Amnesia, and everyone's like, play Outlast. I played it, and I was like, so this was terrible. Why did you tell me to? Then I found out it's possibly more popular than Amnesia, so I upset a lot of people with that one.
Yeah. I just don't know how I can do a drink recommends for Father Ted. Like, how do I encapsulate that entire show in, like, 10, 15 minutes?
Do it in 20.
Yeah, do it in an hour. Yeah, it's just fantastic. But like, for anyone who's never seen it, watch Father Ted. It's great. You'll laugh at it. Miss Sally Faye says, maybe you two could review The Fugitive or My Cousin Vinny, but whatever you do, I'll be happy to watch it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
This one's a good one. Andrew Clark says, Rocketeer for EFAP movies. Sell it to him, drinker. Yeah, The Rocketeer's a fantastic, like, old-fashioned, charming Disney movie from the early 90s, and it's so underappreciated now, and I just love it.
That might end up on our arc, because I know Rags loves that movie, and he wants to put it in EFAP movies at some point. I just haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen it anyway.
I genuinely think you would enjoy it. It's like I say, like, it's just got that really old-fashioned, wholesome feel that you used to get from Disney films, as opposed to now where they like support concentration camps and communism. But it's just a sign of the times,
Yeah.
Alex Lee says, I vaguely remember Mundane Matt saying he was a Melissa McCarthy fan back in 2016.
Oh God!
When Ghostbusters 2016 came out.
Oh no.
Well, I imagine Mundane Matt said a lot of things over the years.
Yes.
Whatever was popular at the time, he probably said it. Aurelia Souza says, I enjoyed both your commentary on your channels. Keep up the good work, y'all. For MauLer, what's your take on Gladiator?
I haven't seen it in so long now that I can't be very specific. I've always loved it, so if that helps. But like, man, I can't comment on like how it all connects because I mainly just remember all of the gladiator scenes,
Yeah.
But yeah, I always enjoyed it, and it was quite impactful, like culturally, I'd say.
Yeah. Solid movie for me. Yeah. Russell Crowe's character was a really great, tragic, interesting character, and his sort of journey that he goes through throughout the movie was really good. I think it was Oliver Reed's last performance, so yeah, great to see that. And Joaquin Phoenix even was great in it. Jack Tees says, salutations, boys. 2 questions. Number 1, favorite running gags throughout the trilogy, and 2, why is the world end seen as the worst one of the 3? For me,
it's got to be the fences, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's the fucking fences. I just think it's so well worked out between films. Why is the world's end seen as the worst of the 3? I think for me, and it's something we touched on earlier, is like it doesn't really have the sharp, really tightly written story and plot of Hot Fuzz, and it doesn't really have the really accessible comedy of a zombie apocalypse that you get with Shaun of the Dead. It's very uniquely British. It's a bit more reflective. It's a bit darker, and it's a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, I would go as far as saying it's much more dour than the other 2. It's tougher to watch for these people suffering in such like positions in their lives that are just the other 2. They work from what I would say like average lives to better ones. This one is they're in really bad places, and then they end up in an apocalypse. And I think a lot of people didn't like that ending. They thought it was really like tragic and sort of just wow, so we just lost sort of thing. When I think what the movie was trying to go for was that no matter what your position is, you try and make the best of it, and you need to keep moving on, keep moving up, sort of thing. Don't get stuck in what you think everything should be like, and just thinking about that forever. Because I know that a lot of people felt like there was things that weren't working in that film, and they were desperately looking for what the answers were, because it's difficult to put into words sometimes. Like I said, for me, I thought there was just a couple of things that didn't line up quite well and were a little bit more forced, and Edgar Wright's usually really good at making everything follow just naturally, sort of thing. And yeah, I've seen people complain about the dynamic shift. It's like, I don't want to see Simon Pegg and Nick Frost like having issues with each other to that degree. They barely had like any connection. I was just like, oh, I loved the new dynamic. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It's nice to see them branching out and doing different things and being a bit more bold with it. In the first 2, it was very much like Simon Pegg was the good guy character, and in a lot of ways, Nick Frost was playing the guy who was a bad influence on him. Whether it's Ed from Shaun of the Dead just being like a slob who's encouraging him to, and just like leeching off him, encouraging him to just drink and eat and stuff, and not really do anything with his life. And then Danny from Hot Fuzz, who's kind of just a slacker. He might mean well, but he's a kind of clueless idiot who just doesn't really want anyone to rock the boat. Whereas in this, like, it's the polar opposite. And so, I think that's a good thing to do. It's good to like play around with the expectations a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. We could explain more than that. I think that's, a lot of people have their own personal reasons at that point for what they didn't like, but it seems to be that's the general vibe I get, is that two of them are seen as these great films that have great messages and great premises and great characters. The other one is this one that's rocky. It's just how they're seen.
Yeah. Hello says, no need to see your face, MauLer. I could never have seen Darth Vader's face and would have been happy. You guys and your associates are all my entertainment now, and my life is better for it. Cheers.
Oh, thank you very much. And obviously, part of EFAP's little, I think, appeal is the fact that there are no cameras and that the avatars get like zoomed in on or they jitter around and stuff. Just lots of little jokes can come from that. And thanks for the interest. And we are here to entertain as well as inform as best we can.
Yeah, we do our best. Bradley163 says, watching these happy hours, especially the ones about the Cornetto Trilogy, have been an absolute pleasure. Keep doing what you do. Cheers, drinker. Thank you. And, it's great to hear. Like, I know it'd be easy to just do another stream where we rag on, like, MCU or Star Wars or anything like that. And it's like, it's easy to do it, but, like, sometimes it's nice to just take the opposite tack and just, do something a bit more positive. And, like, we get a chance to talk about movies that we really like. I know, Gary really enjoys doing stuff like this, where it's like, oh, yeah, this reminds me of, like, why I really love films or TV shows or whatever. It just gives us a little chance to kick back and enjoy ourselves, and like hopefully that comes through for people who watch us. Joshua Bell says, any advice for someone who wants to start making videos? What editing software and method of drawing your avatar would you recommend for a beginner? Ooh, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this, actually.
So like how best to sort of come up with one, or who to contact for one?
Well, so they're saying, first of all, what editing software do you use? How do you come up with your avatar? And what would you recommend that a beginner does? Like, any advice, I suppose.
Oh, sorry. I thought all three questions were related to avatars. So the editing software I use is Sony Vegas 16, I think. Most people use either Vegas or Premiere. I think those are the most popular ones. But honestly, you should probably have a look at some maybe articles or YouTube videos about like what the best editing software is, because I use the one I'm most comfortable with. I'm really not like an expert on anything to do with that. The avatar was back in the day. My avatar was just a black circle with a green M. That was it. I can't even tell you why I went with green and black as my color dynamic. I was just like, I don't know, it looks fine. And then someone who was a fan of me on Twitch was like, you need a revamp. Your art is awful, and you don't even have like an avatar. And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, he scanned through a whole bunch of ideas, and he just saw the template for the gas mask, which you can find on other things. It's like a common one. And then I was lucky enough to have fans make artwork of it. And then I think at some point I just committed to like, I actually really like the whole gas mask man look, and I think there's lots of fun that come out of it in terms of just making reference to it like in a meta way. And then we just did different avatars for different parts of the year. It was all really fun. So what I'm saying is, like, if someone said like, how do you come up with it? It's like, it was a complete accident. So like, I don't really know how to best come across. But of course, when it comes to avatars, you can easily draw a lot of meaning out of them, even in post. You can be like, how does this apply to me, or what does it mean? And for a lot of people, like, you got to figure out what you're maybe about and what do you find appealing as imagery. I've never really had to think about it myself, so it's kind of tough. The person to ask about this might be Fringy and Rags, because obviously they came up with those deliberately.
Yeah.
I just have to imagine you're going to want it to try and encompass a little bit about what you consider to your sort of personality to be, or what you do. Somehow the Gas Mask Man has matched my work. A lot of people struggle to figure out how, but it's just the way that it is now.
It's weird. Like, it's just what I associate with you, and I think there's something really kind of cool about the suit and the combination of like a suit and a gas mask. Like it's just such a weird juxtaposition, but it somehow works really well. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like it. Obviously, when the current Avatar was made, the previous one was made by the same guy as well. I was just like, man, I don't think I'll be changing this ever. Like it looks really slick at this point.
That's really good. Mine was just literally a screen grab from like one of my videos, my earliest videos. And you know, when you upload something and like YouTube will suggest like 3 different thumbnails, just for like a random point in the video. It was just one of those. It caught me doing like a bit where I was gulping down Jack Daniels, like just straight from the bottle. And I was like, yeah, that looks quite good actually. It's just random as fuck. It was low res, and then I think when my channel started to take off, someone did like a bit of artwork for it to like, you know, redraw it, but same exact background and everything. And yeah, I just went with that, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. I had the sunglasses on and everything, so I was like, yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
And for my software that I use VideoPad Professional, probably because I'm a dummy and it's really simple to use. So yeah, that works for me. So yeah, that's how we get started.
Captain was there a third question? I couldn't remember.
So yeah, advice for someone who wants to start making videos as well.
Oh,
so any general advice, I suppose, for making videos?
That's one of them. Lead with your heart, and then once you're in a familiar position, let your mind start, you know, sculpting it all to be better and better. So, what do you want to talk about? Talk about that.
Yeah, and like, how do you want to do it? Like, I know it's one of those arty farty things where it's like, oh, you have to find your voice and all that, but like there's a grain of truth to that, where you have to find a style that works for you. You know, ideally something that reflects your personality, and whether it's, you know, maybe take your personality and just amp it up by a factor of 10, and like that can become your YouTube persona, and you just go with that. But like, it's got to be something that you're comfortable with.
And some of it's not conscious as well. Like you'll make like 5 videos and you'll realize, wow, the first 2 was style 1, the second 2 was style 2, and style 2.5 is what I'm at now. It's just like, it just sort of happens. Yeah,
you change gradually over time, I suppose. You know, as different things come in, you have new ideas and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess eventually you settle into a groove that works for you. Captain LOL19 says, would you ever EFAP the George Romero zombie saga? Absolutely. That would be definitely a good one to cover. Trenton Quinn, Suicide Squad was a really pleasant surprise. They had me hooked the second that Weasel made his jump from the helicopter. Episode 149 made my girlfriend a fan of EFAP. MauLer, howdy, drinker.
Oh, yeah. That episode was just, we just praised what we thought worked in the Suicide Squad, and then shout on what we thought didn't. It was a very normal episode, but a lot of people had fun with it.
The question I always had about that is like, why did the Weasel jump from the chopper if he knew he couldn't swim?
It's a good question, honestly. We didn't actually cover that in the thing. I completely forgot it, because someone brought up, why would they have him on the team if, like, would they really be stupid enough to not check? Which we were like, there's a good chance you wouldn't check that. You just assume he could swim.
Yeah, I can figure that. But why didn't he know?
Maybe he was pushed off because we didn't see.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. I always got the feeling he just went for it and like, you know, just.
Well, if you remember, he's screaming and flailing as he falls down.
Yeah.
So maybe Rick pushed him out, and then
that seems about right. RRTNZ says, cheers boyos, drinker, I'm reading Sacrifice, scarily prophetic of this week. Yeah, it's set in Afghanistan. Enough downers, I second a recommendation for Father Ted. Will lift spirits every time. Are you racist now, Father? Laughing my ass off. Yeah, that episode was fantastic. Again, something that would never get made now. So yeah, but it's good stuff. Leo Film says, Christopher Lambert, Beowulf, watch it and despair. Would love to see your take on this post-apocalyptic weirdness. If it's got Christopher Lambert in it, it's got to be good. Dio Martinez says, MauLer, are you ever going to finish your Game of Thrones final episodes review?
Well, am I ever going to finish the TFA series? Am I ever going to finish doing what's the other ones? I know I've said I want to do Joker. I know people want me to do Endgame because, like, obviously I did Infinity War, and they're like, "Why don't you do an Endgame?" And it's like, because Endgame, like, I don't understand how I could finish talking about Endgame under 10 hours. Like, the amount they do in that film is insane. And Fringy, by the way, has started writing, I think he's nearly finished his script on Endgame, so I'll probably leave it to him now. But you know how it is just all these different ideas for projects. By the time I'd finished episode 5 of season 8 of Game of Thrones, I was done. I was like, that's my commentary for like that shitty fucking season. And everyone's expecting an episode 6. I didn't give them an episode 1 or 2. I just went 3, 4, 5. So I guess they would want a 6. Originally, I intended to, but I think now, eventually, I'm going to rewatch the show one day at some point, unspecified in future, and I'm going to make a video that will be called Season 8, Episode 6, Unbridled Rage, but it's probably going to be a summary of how they fucked the show completely.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what my review of like episode 6 became, where it was just like, well, okay, I'll talk about the episode itself, but then I just want to give my overall thoughts of like what they've done to this show, and how much of a fuck up it was, and it just gave like kind of closure to the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, I need to do The Boys season 2 as well. I've told you before, I finished the script on that. It's a 7-hour script. So, but like, fucking hell, it's going to take so long to make. So it'll have these scripts that are finished. You don't understand. Like, I will not let them not become videos. Otherwise, I'll be pissed off at the waste. You know, someone's going to hear me say those words at some point. It's going to happen.
Yeah, just put like 7 hours of gameplay footage on. Just like nothing to do with what you're talking about. Just fuck it.
I mean, it could actually get to that point one day. If I get too stacked up, I'm going to have to just read these scripts out and have them on a stream or something. Maybe I can hire an editor to do the whole thing.
Yeah, it would be well worth it, I would say. Wormy Spoon says, have you guys seen Avengement? Bad but awesome. I haven't seen that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, another
Trenton Quinn says, I think you and MauLer need to do the Mission Impossible series. I watched Fallout last night and I'm ever more sad that I am not Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill's awesome, man. He feels like an actor who's just waiting for the right role to come along. Like, I feel like he's the kind of guy who could be leading a franchise that's not DC.
Yeah. Well, he would have been a perfect Superman, I reckon. He just needed someone else writing, I think.
Yeah. But it feels like his Superman's been through so much shit that like there's just no real appetite to like try and revive it.
Did you know that James Gunn originally, or at least at one point, considered bringing him into the Suicide Squad as the villain that they would have to stop, at least their antagonist or something like that?
Oh damn, man!
Yeah, I know.
No, James, don't do it.
I think that would have pissed off a large portion of Twitter. I think
it would have been a tough sell. I think. Little Drama Show says, hello, Massives. Have you guys ever Peaky Blinders? If not, I think you'll like it, and I would love to see you two cover it. I'm no critic, but I deem it a well-made series that doesn't succumb to the message. Yeah, I've seen Peaky Blinders, and it's great. Cillian Murphy's really good in it. It's an entertaining show.
All I know is I should see it. I have not seen it, though.
It's probably worth your time, yeah. I don't know what I could really say about it that would be that interesting. It's just a really well-made gangster show, you know. Wormy Spoon says, Lord of the Rings is good, except for the Deus Ex Machigos. Yeah, they're a bit convenient at times, I'll say that. It's even worse in The Hobbit, actually, where they take them like part of the way to the Lonely Mountain and then just stop. And it's like, oh yeah, you can do the rest of this yourself. Really? You can't just take me there? Jake Boylan says, make sure you to bring on Jay for Lord of the Rings Drinker. Yeah, Jay's a big fan, apparently. Danny Boy says, Drinker, what are your thoughts on 300? I'd love to hear you review that and The Big Lebowski. Also, have you met any of your streaming friends? So we've covered 300, haven't we? We did an EFAT movies on it.
Which isn't out, but it will be out one day. Could be 10 years after you've done it. So maybe you could do a stream, I guess, if you wanted to.
I think our general consensus was like, oh, wow, this movie really wasn't as good as we remember.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what our thoughts were now. It was lots of weird shit in that movie.
Yeah, I think we did a lot of laughing just because it's so outlandish in so many places and all the endless slow-mo scenes and stuff. Like, yeah, it's a bit farcical at times. Definitely a product of its time, and I can see why it was so influential. But man, yeah, it was a bit of a slog when you rewatch it. Have I met any of my streaming friends? Not really, no, because my channel took off, and then like the pandemic hit, and so we couldn't really go anywhere. So yeah, we've not really had an opportunity. You know, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but like all the guys from like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic and stuff, like they were meeting up in Vegas, and I was like, fucking hell, what have we got? Bournemouth.
Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, like now that we can travel again, yeah, I'd definitely do stuff like that. I'd happily meet up with all you guys. Alex Lee says, "Hey, MauLer and Drinker, what do you guys think of the Studio Ghibli films? And Drinker, would you do a stream of your favorite of them?" Yeah, personally, I've done a review on Castle in the Sky, and I'd happily do more of the Studio Ghibli movies because most of them are fantastic. I don't know if you've even seen any of them, MauLer.
I think Howl's Moving Castle was my favorite. I really liked that the last time I saw it, and then I like Spirited Away a lot, and then a couple of others. I can't remember which ones I've seen exactly. I think I've seen Princess Mononoke. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I really like Princess Mononoke. Howl's Moving Castle was a bit of a weird one, but I think it was one of those ones where it's like I think it was good. I'm just not quite sure. I think I need to rewatch it.
I loved Calcifer. I thought he was a really cool character.
Is that
still remember him? Little fire dude.
Oh yeah. RRTNZ says, "Cheers, Drinker and Shami MauLer. Your eventual Lord of the Rings stream will be truly epic. Certainly, worlds better than the Hobbit films. Even I think they're rubbish, and I was an extra in the first one." That's cool.
What I remember of the Hobbit films was that I found the first one was fine. The second one I was like, that was a bit long, was fine, and then the third one I was like, fucking hell, that was bad. I can't remember. If I was to rewatch them though, I'd probably have different things to say, I guess.
I think when it came to the overall tone as well, like Lord of the Rings, you know, okay, it had the occasional bit of humor in it with Gimli and stuff, but like generally the tone was serious. Like this was serious shit that was going down, like world-ending stuff. Lord of the Rings, it just came across as like really slapsticky and dumb, and like just it was goofing around a lot, and it just felt like so inappropriate.
I remember liking the Gollum scene and the Smaug scene, both with Bilbo, but other than those, I don't remember a lot of what I even enjoyed in the Hobbit films, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, like the dwarves were just comedy, you know. It was like the Three Stooges, basically, but like in a modern context. Like it's just that level of stupidity.
The major issue was basically being unable to tell the difference between all the hobbits, dwarves character-wise.
Yeah, because there's like 10 of them or something. So
and they just didn't do a very good job of separating them out.
Yeah, and I know that's like a hangover from the book, obviously, but yeah, like, you know, it's just a bunch of extras essentially on screen. You don't know who anyone is or what their purpose is. So yeah, there's that. Like, the action scenes are just really cartoony. Like, there's no stakes. You never feel like anyone's really in any risk because they can fall off cliffs and stuff, and they're fine. You know.
Mm-hmm.
John Oakletree says, "Drinker, are you a Tom Clancy fan? I'm reading Without Remorse right now after seeing the movie. I would love to hear your take on the Jack Ryan films." Yeah, I like the movies. I've read quite a few of his books. I've read Debt of Honor, Hunt for Red October, Red Storm Rising, and Rainbow Six, and a couple others that I can't remember right now. But yeah, generally they're really good. They're very long, very detailed, a lot of technical knowledge and stuff. But the guy knew his stuff, and I think most of the films were pretty good, from what I recall. Tom says, "Have you ever watched the movie Kill the Irishman?" I have not, I'm afraid.
No, another way.
Athos Dumas says, "Watched WE last night as girlfriend had never seen it, then checked YouTube to see the stream scheduled in 9 hours. Superb. Got all your books on Audible, Drinker, and started the first one. Loving it. Thank you both gents for all your great work." Nice.
Thank you.
And it's great time, and you watched World's End last night. Ronald Shimovicus said, "Say, Drinker, have you watched Limitless from 2011 and Upgrade from 2018? Two of my favorite movies, which sadly didn't get much recognition." Yeah, I've seen both of them. Upgrade was good, actually. The fight scenes were great fun in that. And quite a dark ending to it as well. Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk about. Mr. Nobody says, MauLer, where did MauLer come from?
So basically, me and Mel used to do a lot of drug streams back on Twitch. It would almost be every Friday. We'd just get drunk and play games, and it would usually be like 6 or 7 hours. And we just started making some of these memes. We would just refer to each other's names with like slurred language, and then it just caught on. Like the reason the second channel is called MauLer is because that was like the main one people used to call me back then, but it's now evolved into Mubschly as like the newest made one. Like if I was to make the second channel today, it would be called Mubschly. I really like all the variations of it. I find them really funny.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like sometimes you'll sign onto a stream and you'll be like MauLer. The Prozac Kid says, will you do a review of The Greasy Strangler? It's a dark comedy produced by Elijah Wood. I've heard about The Greasy Strangler, actually. Yeah, it's just meant to be like a really, not gruesome, but just like really distasteful kind of horror movie. But yeah, it'd be an interesting one to look at. James McDonough says, Drinker, I love your videos. How long have you been on YouTube and what was your major at film school? No, when I went to uni, I did information technology. Nothing to do with movies or anything like that. But yeah, how long I've been on YouTube? I started way back in like 2010 or 2011, just pottered about doing the occasional video. Didn't really do much with it. Then I got my first publishing deal as a writer, and so I stopped making videos and turned my attention to that. And I only started come back to it about 2019 or something, and then it just really took off from there. And it's
what was the movie that did it for you? Like made you want to make videos?
I think it was Captain Marvel. I think sorry, I mean back in the day, Christ, what would it have been?
Oh, I did mean the comeback rather than back in the day, but yeah, either one.
Oh yeah, the comeback, yeah. So I started just doing general stuff. Like I started doing games. Like I did a lot of the Resident Evil games because I was really into the series, and I just wanted to like chart it as it changed over time and all that sort of thing. And yeah, I think the first like big movie that really got me back into it, it was probably like that era of like Ghostbusters and Captain Marvel and stuff, where it just felt like the landscape of entertainment's changing and not for the better. And I feel like I've got a bit of an understanding of what's wrong here, and I'm going to share it with people. And yeah, people really understood what I was going at, and that's the reason my channel took off, I guess.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it worked out quite well. Captain Caboose says, greetings from my 18-wheel beast. Keep up the good work, Drinker. You should do a trucker movie with a trucker. Well, I hope your truck's called the Pork Chop Express, man, and you just like rant into your radio all night long. Yeah, I've already got my trucker movie, and that's Big Trouble in Little China. Ryan Pittsinger says, heard Demonic is pretty bad. Still would have liked to have seen Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5, especially after seeing Covenant. I think we all would, yeah.
Yeah.
Dumars says, unwinding after work with two great guys. MauLer, did my plushies come with a toxic do not eat label? Cheers.
That would have been good. Well, that's the thing. We plan to make some more in the future, I guess, and we're probably going to see what the audience is after. So maybe you could help give us ideas on what kind of thing you want to see in future.
Cool. I think we're almost at the end, actually. Don Cheeky says, the David Lynch mention from the Dune video reminded me, ever seen Inland Empire? Been a while since I saw it, but I remember it being trippy as balls. I mean, that's pretty much any David Lynch movie, to be honest, but I've not seen Inland Empire, and I've seen quite a few of his other ones. I'd be lying if I said I was a massive David Lynch fan. I think his stuff is just not quite to my taste, but yeah, not seen Inland Empire, unfortunately. Star Trekker 58 says, thanks for your content, guys. I agree, one of shit movies, but whatever. Destroy franchises that pisses me off. Disney wins the piss offery award. CBS close second for Star Trek, and the third is BBC for Doctor Who. So who cares about that now? Yeah, no one, to be honest. I felt bad for Jay, actually. You know, seeing the amount of sort of attachment that they had to that to Doctor Who. You know, yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking when you see the effect it has on people when it's so trashed.
Yeah, I feel like it's similar for a lot of I think that's probably why we feel a bit extra when we see it, because we're like, oh man, that same thing over here with this particular thing.
Yeah, for me, it was probably
part of the response he got as well. He's gone through the ringer with everybody coming after him who's like, you're doing it. So many people have said like, you absolutely just hate women, sort of thing, and it's like, this is not good. You can do it to us, you'll get away with it with us, but you're not gonna get away with it, Jay. That doesn't fucking make any sense at all. You can't do it.
Yeah, and the entire video, I think he mentions Jodie Whittaker being a woman like one time. That's it. He doesn't even like do it in a negative context. So it's like, yeah, fuck off. That's just the kind of criticism that stifles any kind of intelligent discussion, because it's just like, nah, I'm not going to actually like listen to the massive amounts of material that you've drawn from and the complex argument that you put forward. It's just like, no, you don't like women. That's it.
Yeah, and there's been other tweets he's gone as well where people are just like, sorry, but like, why would I watch a video that long? And then it's like, wait, so you watched all of Doctor Who, right? Seasons 11 and 12? We're like, yeah. It's like, do you know how long that comes to? It's like, well, yeah, but I'll watch that, but I'm not going to watch a YouTube video that's that long. It's like, oh yeah, no YouTube video could be better than any production from Hollywood or Britain or whatever, could it? Not possible.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to watch a well-constructed, rational argument. You know, something
I'd
that goes
rather
against
watch
what
Doctor
I want
Who
to believe.
again. Seasons 11 and 12. It's gonna be, dude, season 13. That's going to be a fun ride for everybody too. Chris Chibnall trying his hand at doing what, like an eight episode storyline or something like that.
I honestly think the whole season will just be a giant like fuck you to the entire audience. Like, he'll just go out of his way to make it as obnoxious as possible, because it's like, well, I'm going out the door anyway. I don't have to care. Yeah,
there'll be some character that's critical of things, and then the story will be about how wrong they are for being critical of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's for me. It's gone to the stage of like, I'm totally divorced from it. I don't have any emotional attachment to it whatsoever, so I just don't care where it goes now. Like, obviously there's other people that are still invested in it, but yeah, it's just not me anymore. Chad Merriman says, hi, are you guys excited for Edgar Wright's new movie Last Night in Soho? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if I'm
very
excited
intrigued
yet. Yeah,
definitely give it a shot.
Athos Dumas says, a second chat to thank you both for the countless hours of entertainment and many, many work days you've accompanied me through. Cheers from a Brit in Australia. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Armageddon says, for God's sake, man, Rollerball, 1975. Yeah. Aurora Uplinks, do you fear robots of Spaceballs, young Frankette? Indeed. Sorry, reboots of Spaceballs. Sorry, reboots. I fear reboots of everything, really, because they generally don't work out well. Joshua Bell says, thanks for your answer. I have an idea of what avatar to use. Just wanted to know what software you and others use to draw it. Oh, there we go.
There you go, yeah.
Aurora Uplinks, if MauLer wrote a film, what would it be about?
I have no particular preference. I like basically all genres, all approaches, all tones. If ever someone was crazy enough to give me money to make a film, and it wasn't like it was completely unrestricted, I'd probably want to start with doing something akin to like Reservoir Dogs, something small scale, mainly about characters, and probably in not many places, just to really take it easy, because I don't think there's any way it'll turn out that good, but as a first try, probably just try and focus on getting characters right. That would be what I'd be interested in doing.
Nice. CR Music Videos says, Peep Show or Mitchell and Webb Look. If you haven't seen either, I highly recommend. I've seen Peep Show. I haven't seen the other one, though. TikToker says, have you seen 30 Coins on HBO? If so, opinion. No, I haven't seen it, I'm afraid.
Neither have I.
Brett Cohen, lads, you'll be happy to hear the writer for Falcon D Plus show is writing Cap 4. Thrilling entertainment is on its way for you guys if you're bothered.
I'm not ready for that, dude. That's gonna piss me off to no end. Like this, Captain America 4 starring Falcon. Fuck off.
Yeah, that's just a joke. The Prozac Kids. When will there be a Thing stream? Best John Carpenter film, and Kurt is amazing in that film. I mean, I've already done a review of it, so it might seem a bit much to do a review and a stream on it, but
give it time. I'd happily do that with you. I love The Thing. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you what you can do with practical effects in a horror movie to make something that's really effective. So yeah, it's great stuff. Spencer Stabio says, have either of you ever played Red Dead Redemption 2? Who hasn't? It's a Western video game with a good story and protagonist. Yes, it's an excellent game. I've lost many days to it.
I should play it.
I think you'd enjoy it. Yeah. I got totally fucked on the karma system, though. Didn't realize how important it was until too late.
Oh.
Yeah, so be a good man when you're playing it.
Very well.
KDH Corinthos says, MauLer, thanks for finally giving us your one marvelous scene. Drinker, you're next.
Yeah, man, it was fun to chop it out of the video. I don't know if you've seen, I've got like a 20-minute video on MauLer now that's just where I talk about the interrogation scene. It is kind of fun to just take one scene from a film and talk about why it was so effective as far as you're concerned, sort of thing.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting idea. And if you're, Corinthos, if you're asking me to do something similar, I can think of a few. But I'll get back to you on that one. Roman Ginovich says, any thoughts on Invisible? Ever since it got out, I've been waiting to see your take on it. I'm so drunk, for fuck's sake. I assume you mean Invincible rather than Invisible.
Yeah, probably.
But I've heard nothing but good things about it, and it's definitely on my to-watch list.
I've not seen it.
Really? Oh, I thought you had, actually.
A lot of people have recommended it. It's just there's so much to watch these days. I might get around to it at some point, but no promises.
Mr. V says, guys, at some point you have to watch True Detective Season 1. It's one of the best written things I've ever seen. Matthew McConaughey is phenomenal too. And Alexandra Daddario gets her boobs out in it. So, yeah, everyone's a winner.
That's true. I've seen Season 1. I've not seen 2 and 3.
I've heard they're a bit shit in comparison to Season 1.
Did people like 2, but they didn't like 3? Is that what I've heard? I'm not sure. I think 3 is definitely the shit one, though, from what I've heard.
PA Grunt says, we need a drinker plushie to go with MauLer and Rags plushies. Love all of you. Thank you.
Do it, drinker. Do it.
Do it. Thoughts? Sorry, Mickey Vicky says, thoughts on Frankenstein. Sorry, Frankenstein. I saw it and it was fun. Is that the one with Aaron Eckhart?
Frankenstein. Is that the one with you talking about Daniel Radcliffe's in that one, right? Or I can't remember now. Frankenstein.
I thought it was Aaron Eckhart that was in that one, but I could.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
If that's the one I'm thinking of, then I don't think it made a huge amount of impression on me. So it is. Yeah, Aaron Eckhart. That's the one. So, yeah, I don't think it made a huge impression on me. It was okay. It was just one of those films that kind of keeps you ticking over. But I'm glad you enjoyed it in that case. Majimi Piero gave me £5, so thank you. Chronic86, love your content for over 2 years now. Having the Dalmore 12-year-old and a Liga Privada number 9 cigar. If you partake, have a stogie on me. Thanks, mate. OMG Poppies says, keep up the good word, drinker. 11 seasons of Doctor Who. Tom Baker for the win. Pirate Planet by Douglas Adams is a must-see. I'd probably agree with Tom Baker being my favorite Doctor. He was great.
Yeah, he's a top pick for a lot of people, I think.
Ed Rojas says, Drinker MauLer, love you both. Keep up with the great content. Have you watched Succession on HBO? I think you'd love the show as much as I do.
I have not.
Neither have I, I'm afraid. I feel like every time someone recommends stuff to us, we're like, yeah, never seen it. Virtue of Absolution says, MauLer, why do you stay anonymous? Are you concerned about doxing actions from radical violent leftists, or is it simply a personal preference?
I'd say that probably plays into it, I guess. Like the less they know about me, the better, sort of thing. Because people are really fucking weird on the internet, unfortunately. But like I said, I've been on camera before. I just this is just preferable at this point, and I've not seen any real need to not do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's cool, and I totally get it. For a lot of people, this is definitely the way to go. Odge Holy says, loving the stream. Have either of you seen Better Call Saul? It has some of my favorite characters in anything. Highly recommended. See, I really love Breaking Bad, but I never really got into Better Call Saul. Like, I watched the occasional episode, and I was just like, nah, it's not doing it for me.
I'm going to give it another try when it's done, because I watched season 1, and I was like, that was neat. And then I remember thinking, like, they brought him down and then back up, like success in terms of how much money he has, and then back down again, then back up. And I remember thinking like, oh god, is this the pattern? Are we just going to do like he tries to crack a scheme, it kind of works out, and then he loses all the money over and over again? But I think that might have been a bit cynical, and I think I'm coming off the rush that was Breaking Bad, and so I was just like, what are we doing in Better Call Saul? But I keep hearing great things about it. And so I think when it's done, I'm going to try and go through the whole thing and just try and take it all in as a big story.
Could be delayed, actually, because Bob Odenkirk just had a heart attack recently.
Yeah, that I've never seen a more unified topic on the internet. Everybody was like, please be okay. Like,
yeah. Because it's one of those guys everyone likes.
Yeah, he hasn't pissed off anybody, and he does really good work, so.
Yeah. Night King 01 says, I just watched Casino Royale for the 800th time, and now I'm sad that No Time to Die will not be as good. You should do a stream on it. Yeah, that is the movie that really reinvigorated Bond as a franchise, and it really sold me on Daniel Craig as his new era of Bond. I was like, wow, this is like tense and well written, and it doesn't rely on like ridiculous gadgets and big action scenes. It's just like really good acting between interesting characters. This is great. And then none of the other movies were like that. So
well, it feels weird watching a guy play Bond who like hates playing Bond.
Yeah.
Like you feel like, oh man, that's a component you should probably have in there, to be honest.
Yeah, Daniel Craig he was not the right choice for Bond. As much as the movie's great, like it could have been done better with a different actor, I think. Someone who was more invested in it. Well, like I've always said he doesn't have the suaveness that you want from Bond.
Yeah. And you know, like he adores playing the detective guy in Knives Out. That's why he's like he just wants to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, you want to play fucking Foghorn Leghorn, but you don't want to play James Bond. Okay. I just like, all right, fair enough.
Because James Bond's too toxic, you see, for him. Like he has to play someone who's a bit more friendly. Mika D2 says, MauLer, if you ever make it to a meetup in person, you better be rocking that sweet blonde hair.
Well, so if we're in like lockdown for 10 years, maybe I'll be bald by then. I don't know. I could wear a wig. You know, that would be helpful for the gas mask, though.
I hope you're wearing like a blonde wig like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. You know, when he takes off the afro and it's just it's ridiculous. Mane of blonde hair underneath. Fucking Kurt Lazarus. And Ryan Wheeler says, howdy gents, thanks for the entertainment. Any chance of a review, live stream or something on Star Wars, the original trilogy movies? Loved your guys' content. I don't know how you feel about this one, MauLer, but for me, I'm just like, I don't know what I can add to the discussion about the original trilogy at this point. Like it feels like everything that could possibly be said about those films has been said already.
Sorry, I missed which trilogy are we talking
about? The OT for Star Wars.
Oh, right. I don't know, because yeah, they come up in reference all the time, and I think we've all treated it as though everyone knows what they are and what they did, and so we all just talk about it like, yeah, you know that bit, you know that bit, you know what this was, and I don't know if anyone's done like a full breakdown in our spheres of those actual films. It's like it just feels like something that was never needed to be done. But I mean, it could be fun to like actually go through them, maybe even on a stream like this, like talking about all the scenes in A New Hope rather than simply referencing it as like, that's where the fucking amazing franchise started. But at the same time, I understand like what scene in those films isn't something that we all know back to front at this point, where it's just like, yes, let me mention how great it is, the fight scene between Luke and Vader in Return of the Jedi, because of what's going on with their characters. When everyone's sitting there like, yep, we know all that, yep.
Yeah, it would just be like kind of universal agreement. Which is, you know, it's a tough one, like you say, like when you're covering something that's so well known and everyone's generally in agreement about what works about it, it's like, what can I add that people wouldn't have heard already? What other insight can I give here? And it's a tough one, I think. Not that it wouldn't be great to gush over them or anything like that, but man, yeah, I just think you'd have to find some way of like making it interesting, I suppose. Yeah, I think we're almost at the end, actually. There's only two more. Captain Lol19 says, Happy Hour, Andy Serkis, Planet of the Apes. Yeah, good trilogy. I quite enjoyed them, and Andy Serkis' performance as Caesar is just incredible for a piece of CGI, essentially. And Brett Cohen says, Drinker, no plushie for you. Just imagine all the weird people going doggy on poor rags. Weird parasocial simps exist. Don't become a meme. I don't know. I just want a plushie, man. Become a life ambition now. It's like my golden mile. But yeah, I think that's the end of it, actually. I think we got to all the super chats. So we made it, MauLer. We did it.
We did it.
Oh, wait, here's one. Yeah, please review Marvel's What If. It's so bad, Marvel's worst. That's fighting talk right there.
I don't want to touch it. If people keep telling me about all these choices they're making, though, something could happen. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, man, honestly, I just wanted to say thank you to you for joining me for this stream, for bringing it into the epic Cornetto trilogy, for talking about all these movies. It's been great to go through all of them with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. I've very much enjoyed all three and talking about them, and it's just a nice remember that we don't hate everything.
Yeah,
nobody, and it's just nice to talk about all the great stuff and all these good movies.
Yeah, keep this in mind, people. We do like stuff. There are movies that we enjoy, and this is definitely one of them. But yeah, like for everyone who's been watching this, thank you to all the guys in chat. Like, thank you to all you. Like, you guys have been great. We really appreciate all the super chats and everything. Like, as always, you're extremely generous, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome to have you on board, and we hope you've enjoyed what we've been talking about tonight. As we were talking about earlier, plushies are now available from MauLer and Rags, and I'm reliably informed that they're super cute. So if you've got the chance, then by all means invest in them. I'll put the links in the description for them, so you can get straight there anyway. And MauLer, as you probably know, has got a new video out talking about Black Widow, and I'm sure it's nothing but praise.
Yeah, if you've got a spare few hours, few days, you might be able to get through
it. But yeah, otherwise that's all we've got for today. So I guess we're going to go away now.
Very well, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody else in chat. See you around.